Blog Talk Radio.
What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Sal Showtime, and we are back with a brand new season of Debate Talk for You Radio. This is officially season 6 of Debate Talk for You. I want to welcome everybody to the show. I want everybody to go to the website, www.blogtalkradio.com/Debate Talk for You. Check out the schedule, and you can keep us on the air by sending your donations. Go to www.paypal.com. Use the email debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. We have listeners all across the globe. Get your pen and pads ready and enjoy the show. Out here in Birmingham, UK, we stay tuned to that Debate Talk for You radio show. Just want to shout out my man Sal and all the other hosts. Make sure you keep it locked right here from the Express Truth. Peace.
Shalom, shalom, Sal Showtime, and all the Debate Talk for You listening audience. This is Mikael Ben Yisrael, yours truly, coming straight out of Chi-Town. Al-G Love all day. This the best show in the nation that brings the young conscious minds to awaken the dead. Keep doing your thing, Showtime. We're going to keep bringing in truth. In Jesus' name, the Mashiach. Shalom to all the nation of Israel.
All praises, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe. This is Nasi Yashuvel of Shomrei HaTorah in Atlanta. And if I'm not reading my Torah or suplexing some false deity, I'm listening to my man, Sal Showtime, and Debate Talk for You Radio. Beautiful. Keep doing the good work, brother, bringing forth the information and spreading that love.
Peace and greetings to all. I'm a digital artist over at Epic Arts. In fact, that's my brand. Just to get right to the meat, some current examples. Matter of fact, I consider them to be great examples of the work I do. It's the work I have been doing for Debate Talk for You for about a year now. So if you want to get a feel of like just the basic thing I do, you can have a look at Sal's gallery. Other things I do include book cover design. So if you are an independent writer and you're looking for a unique book cover design, I'm the guy. My prices are pretty fair. You know, they're fairer than most, in fact. If you want more information on that or more information in general, you can always contact me at epicdesigns@gmail.com. See, that's EPIK. Not with a C, guys. That's EPIK. So, and designs has a Z in it. That's DEZIGNS. That's EPIK DEZIGNS @gmail.com.
Shalom Debate Talk for You family. This spring, when you're planning your family gatherings, be sure to purchase Tupperware, kitchen storageware, and appliances for those special occasions of building memories with your loved ones, keeping your favorite foods fresh for the spring. And don't miss out on the chance to win a 32-gigabyte Kindle Fire HD with any eligible purchase made up until April 21st. Be sure to take advantage of this offer and great deals at www.shopfortupperware.com. That's SHOPFORTUPPERWARE. Make healthy meals and beautiful memories. Shalom.
Greatness attracts greatness. Talk with the Titans host here, Callum L. And you're now locked into Debate Talk for You Radio.
Peace and blessings, family. This is your good, humble brother, Basim, representing the DMV area. And when I'm not holding down my mid-level position in corporate America, I'm tuned into the most respected debate show on the globe. That's Debate Talk for You with the esteemed host, Sal Showtime.
Holy greetings to you all. This is Minister DeAndre from Heirs of the Promise Ministries. It's been a while since the Debate Talk for You audience has heard from me. That's because on this year, April 8th, 2015, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, also called ALL. And also, I found out I had a chromosome called the Philadelphia chromosome, which meant I would have to have a stem cell bone marrow transplant. Well, through the Be the Match registry, worldwide registry, the doctors did find me a 100% unrelated donor, and I had that stem cell bone marrow transplant on July 18th of this year. And I'm proud to say, through the grace and mercy and healing power of the Most High, I am cancer-free. Hallelujah. Now I need you guys, the Debate Talk for You audience, to go to my GoFundMe account, gofundme.com/QZ4SEBVC. That's gofundme.com/QZ4SEBVC and give a donation, and I would appreciate it, your love and support. I'm looking forward to coming minister to you guys in the near future. Peace and blessings to you all.
Hello, everybody out there listening in. It's Brother LeVar, co-teacher of Absolute Bible Truth Ministry. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge and give reverence and credence to the Father of all creation, the Holy One of Israel. Peace and blessings in the name of our Lord and King, the Messiah, Jesus Christ. I want to take this great opportunity to invite you guys to the Absolute Bible Truth broadcast on Blog Talk Radio. If you love to hear the word or have any questions concerning the word, call in and dial 646-716-8249. That's 646-716-8249. We are live on the air every Saturday, the Most High's weekly Sabbath, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to listen in via internet, type in www.blogtalkradio.com/Absolute Bible Truth. We also have a Facebook page. Just type in Absolute Bible Truth, all one word, in the search engine. At ABT, we teach the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth concerning the Word of God while leaving out all personal opinions, speculations, and beliefs. Our ministry believes emphatically that the Bible is indeed the absolute truth, and we pride ourselves in bringing forth the Word in a clear, intelligent fashion so that the body of Christ will be edified in abundance. I love you guys, pray our strength in Christ, and we will do the same for you. Shalom.
This is Renald Francoeur representing from Atlanta, Georgia. And when I'm not busy in the studio, I'm checking out Debate Talk for You Radio. Keep up the great work, Sal Showtime.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another show. You're now listening to Season 6 of Debate Talk Radio. Of course, I'm your host, Sal Showtime, and we have a brand new segment on Debate Talk for You created by my co-host, Emunah Israel, called the Relationship Challenge. This is Volume 1 for the people out there that's tuning in to the show. We appreciate you guys. Let me introduce Emunah. Emunah, are you there?
And I am here. Can I be heard?
Loud and clear, loud and clear. Speak to the people a little bit.
All praises be to the Most High, the Holy One of creation. I give thanks for this day and this opportunity to come here. Thank you, Brother Sal, for inviting me to be your co-host on this show. And as Brother Sal said, this is a brand new segment, so definitely stay tuned. We look forward to this conversation.
All right, once again, this is called the Relationship Challenge, Volume 1. And the topic of discussion for today is, does laying with a woman makes her your wife? Once again, topic of discussion, Volume 1. Does laying with a woman makes her your wife? I know we have a lot of people out there that believe so, according to Old Testament, that laying with a woman makes her your wife, things of nature. We want to hear from you guys out there live. The number is 646-716-7320. By the way, we have some special guests joining the show as well. Let me introduce my first special guest. My first special guest, he's actually been on the show several times before. This is Ahwar Da Swordsman. Welcome to the show.
Hey, shalom, Brother Sal. How you doing? And shalom to the sister. How's everything?
Hey, shalom, shalom. How you doing, man? You ready for the segment, Relationship Challenge Volume 1? Does laying with the woman makes her your wife? Are you ready? There's going to be a lot of powerful dialogue here tonight.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Brother.
And my next special guest is Mayanah Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Shalom, everybody.
Hey, shalom. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Tell the listening audience a little bit about yourself, for those who don't know who you are.
Mia, you talking about me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, as the brother said, my name is Mayanah. There isn't a lot to say. I've studied as a Hebrew for a little over 20 years, and for the most part, I guess you could say I specialize in dealing with reclaiming our Hebrew feminine identity, that's feminine, not feminist, but feminine Hebraic identity, using our scriptures and other historical narratives that support how we are supposed to conduct ourselves and contribute to the narrative, to our cultural narrative.
All right, people, I see we have a lot of people calling in via phone and via Skype. Welcome to the show. Of course, shout out to the international listeners out there that checking out the show via UK, Africa, Germany, all over the globe, Japan. People have been waking up to Debate Talk for You early in the morning, taking down notes, so we appreciate you guys. And, of course, everybody on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, check out the show. Do me a favor, if you're inside a group on Facebook listening to this show right now, share it on your personal page. Let people know that Debate Talk for You is live on the air. And, of course, you can call that number if you want any questions and comments live. Just dial that number, 646-716-7220, and press number 1 and we can add you in the conversation. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give the floor to Emunah. This is her segment, the Relationship Challenge, and, of course, she's going to speak upon this topic for a little while, and after that we're going to bring the special guest in later on. So special guest, do me a favor, just press your mute buttons on your phone, and then, as we go along, of course, you can interact with me and my special guests, and, of course, the host, Emunah Israel. So, Emunah, take it away.
All right. Once again, I want to say Lila Tov, good night to all who are listening, or Boca Tov if you're in the daytime hours. As Sal said, my name is Emunah Yisrael, and, we found it interesting to speak on these topics. I hear a lot of conversation on Debate Talk for You, and it is conversation where, this one is dealing with the relationship. So I want to say on the onstart, I don't know anybody personally on here, so when we go into these areas, sometimes we can take things personally. So prayerfully, we'll be able to go forward with this conversation as it is that we're going to be pulling it out the text to really get some understanding for listeners who may be listening. For me, in the nation for over a decade, I have seen and heard and continue to see and hear that this is one of the issues at the very core of a lot of conflict, whether between men and women or between women and women as it relates to this context. So the question of the day is, does laying with the woman make her your wife? Now, for some people, there might be an issue of a woman speaking about scriptures, but it is in the scriptures, so this is where I'm going to be going from, and then we can definitely speak about that respectfully going forward. Again, there are many different camps who teach this thing, that laying with the woman automatically makes her your, quote, Isha, or however they want to translate wife. I wanted to start by saying that the woman, if we're not aware, the word woman and wife is the same in Hebrew. So to look on the thing as face value, oftentimes we lose an essence. And then there's this whole conversation about Hebrew and the original, so I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. I just wanted to bring forth that the word woman and wife is the same in Hebrew, and what makes it different is depending on the possessive pronoun, so to say. The woman, my wife, things of that nature. Secondly, I wanted to point out the word for to lie down with in a sexual nature. It also comes as sleeping normally. You know, you can look up this word, shakab, 7901. You can take a look at that word and see it in the different contexts. That's another thing. To look at things in context, not only in the script that we're trying to prove or disprove, but as it relates to where it is all throughout the scriptures. And those are two things that for this conversation, as our guests come in, hopefully we can hone in on those things as they bring forward the information. There's one scripture that often I have heard, and that is Isaac, just went with Rebekah. He laid with her in the tent, and see right there it says that she became his wife. I think that scripture for me to touch on in the beginning is very important, because that scripture right there, if you do pick up where most people do, you will be led to that conclusion. It's always important, as I've learned over the years, is to read everything in its context, no matter who is speaking, myself or anybody else. If you pick up in the middle of the verse, you can be led to believe anything. So when we read the entire chapter, and when we read the preceding chapters, we see that the whole conversation of Isaac did not start when Rebekah was on the camel and jumped off and put on her veil, like, who's this man that comes to me in the field? It didn't start there. And so if we pick up the story there, yes, someone is going to be led to believe, taking the tent, lay with her, she's your wife. In reality, what happened in that story, if we go back, we see that Abraham himself, not only was he aware, it was his idea for his servant to go and acquire. So they sent an emissary. They sent someone in their stead to go and get a wife. So Isaac was well aware that he was getting a wife. He said, don't send him back to that country. You go for him and bring her back. So everyone was aware to this situation, that Isaac did not just take a daughter and lay with her and she became his wife. That is not correct in any sense of the word. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but in some instances I will. And so that one is a long chapter that you can definitely go and take a look at. And I'm going to go forward over to chapter 34 in the book of Genesis, Bereshit, and I'm just going to overview this conversation. In this case of Dinah, and what I'm trying to show at this point, because it's really not an argument, it's a conversation, what I'm trying to show is that there are several instances in the Torah where someone laid with, or a man laid with a woman, but it did not equate to her being his wife. In the case of Dinah, which is a perfect illustration, we see that Dinah, and that's Bereshit chapter 34, we see that Dinah went out into the field. She was taken by Shechem, which was a man or a prince of another nation, right? She was defiled, meaning humble. He laid with her. At which point, again, there's a conversation whether or not she was raped or was consensual, but that's not the point at this point. When the information came back to her father, Jacob, as well as her brothers, it was an offense. They did not say, oh, wow, Dinah went off and got married without us. No, it was an offense. It means, he said, what? He caused my sister to play the harlot. You understand what I'm saying? So in the eyes of our foreparents, it was harlotry to lay with someone without a contract, to lay with someone without a defined definition of marriage. Laying with them did not constitute it. And it was so much of an issue that when we go forward, we see what happened with Simeon and Levi as they went up into the place and murked everybody on behalf of they took out a lot of people on behalf of Dinah's honor. Going forward, so that situation, actually, I wanted to also note that Shechem sent his father Hamor to try to correct the instance. And that correction, we do see Torah has that correction on if a woman is the man takes her in the field, he has the ability to go and try to pay restitution to get her as a wife. But then at that point, the father has the ability to say yes or no. And this is what we see happening in the case of Dinah. We see that the father went to try to acquire her as a wife, and they led them on the pretenses that, yes, we're going to go ahead and take marriages with you, but this is not what actually happens as we know the story. But they did make an attempt to fix it because they did put the cart before the horse. So that's another situation that we see, that laying with the individual does not make her your wife. Going on a little bit further to chapter 35 in the case of Tamar, and then I'm going to yield so that we can have conversation, definitely. But I'm just showing here, in the case of Tamar and Judah, and read the whole chapter again, you will see that Tamar was Judah's daughter-in-law, and the first son died, and the second son died, and he perished Shelah, his last son. But he was a little bit apprehensive because the children kept dying. He didn't know why. So he said, go back to your father's house. So they were already aware that this conversation was going on. Anyway, long story short, as the story reveals, she wants him to keep good on his word. And so she dresses up as a prostitute, and he laid with her. That's what it says. He stopped over to the side of the road. They had a conversation. Give me a staff. Give me a signet. We can make this happen as proof. He lays with her. The story goes on. She never becomes his wife. And so we see over and over again in the testimonies that just the simple act of laying with an individual does not make that person your wife. I have two more, and then I'm going to yield to hear the conversation, and we could pick up from there. Also, in the case of Lot's daughters, and these are all what we're going to see in the book of Leviticus 18, like unlawful sexual relations, where it is that Lot's daughters also laid with their father. But that in the book of Genesis, the 20th chapter, but that did not make them the wife. So the point again is just laying with an individual or professing that this individual is your wife, because, or professing that this man is your husband because he has humbled you, or better yet, because he has defiled you. The testimony bears out to us, as well as the law, that this does not constitute matrimony by any stretch of the imagination. So that was basically I have more, but I'm not going to go into it just yet. That was just basically my opening for that conversation that we hear ongoing that is causing a lot of uproar, heartbreak, and, weak family units in the nation. So with that, Brother Sal, if you're still there, I would like to join in those who are on the line so we can have this conversation.
All right, so let's get our special guests involved in this conversation. And, of course, like I said, listen, in the audience, you can chime in as well. The number is 646-716-7020. Mona, do me a favor, press number 1. I'll put you on top of the switchboard. Press number 1 on your phone, and hopefully that'll put you on your that'll put you on top of the switchboard. But let's talk to Mayanah. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am.
All right, so what do you think about this, particular topic, that's laying with the woman makes her your wife? What's your assessment of this topic?
Obviously, I agree with Emunah, because Emunah is making an argument from Torah, and we cannot dispute what is established in Torah. She introduced several topics, several concepts that are important to understand. There is an order to all things, and this is something that we profess to know. But there's an order to all things, and obviously our covenant would not be exempt from that kind of order. Our marriage covenants have a particular prescription. You are supposed to have at least 4 things in common. There is supposed to be the consent, there's a covenant, there's consummation, and in many cases, there's a record of a celebration. So those 4 C's are pretty consistently present in all of our covenant making. This is not something that you just run up on a woman and have your way with her, and then you say, okay, well, now we're married. We don't, as a culture and as a nation of dignity and integrity, we don't hump our wings into holy covenants, and it seems odd for any of us to really accept something at such a base level when everything else in the volume of the text doesn't bear that kind of simplicity out.
And Ahwar Da Swordsman, what's your input on this topic? Does laying with the woman makes her your wife? What's your, so far what you heard, what you want to say about that?
Okay. This is my concept, right? I'm going to start with this first. When you're in a forest and you get lost, you have to go back to your original point to get back on focus. So the question is, the first man that lay with a woman, is that her husband? Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. Because a woman is created with a seal, okay? It's a part of her anatomy called a hymen. All women are created with that. And when a man lay with that woman, he breaks that seal. So to bring it on earthly terms, when you go to the supermarket and you buy a product, 99% of the time it comes with a seal. That's to let you know that when that product was created, nobody dealt with that product but you. So a woman's created in that fashion, well, her anatomy. Now, that have to be the main principle first before you bring all the other ordinances in. And how we prove that, when you read Deuteronomy 22, starting at 13, they give a whole ordinance about a woman being a virgin. And when her father give her away to a man, and if she wasn't a virgin and she lied and slept with another man, she was killed for that. That's how serious it was. So we went far away from that was the original customs way back from the beginning during the time of Adam, all the way up. But what happened? It got disrupted. But that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't want to hold the conversation.
So we have the dollar. Yeah, guys, you want to say something, guys?
Emunah wants to address what we just heard. I'd like to address that. Our brother said a couple of things that are important. The first thing he did was he opened with the analogy of a seal. If you go to a store and purchase a product, that seal must be in place. The first thing we want to clarify is that at no time am I or Sister Emunah saying that a woman should not be a virgin. So that's not even, I don't know, that's not the topic at hand, but using the analogy anyway. If you go into a store, you don't get to just open a jar. You have to purchase that jar. There are still steps. Before you worry about whether or not that seal is closed, you have to purchase it. There are steps involved. You don't get to just open up jars and break anybody's seal. You still have to go through that process. The brother goes on to state that even in the case where you find a woman in the field or if you go to marry a woman, if that man finds some type of uncleanliness in her or she somehow defrauded who she was or misrepresented her virginity to that husband, then that father would get involved because the father was involved in the original transaction. Again, there's that of the father being involved. Our contention, what we are contesting right now, is not whether or not a woman should be a virgin, but whether or not a man has the right to skip all of those other steps. The point of consent has to happen. The point of covenant has to happen. Then you worry about breaking her seal. Did you go to her family? Did you get consent? Have you created a covenant with that woman? Where is her protection? Are those things in place before you went and broke anybody's seal? Did you do those other necessary steps? That is what this discussion is about. Not whether or not you can break a seal, but what do you have to do before you get to break the seal?
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Is there any scenario in the scriptures, procedures weren't taken where she went to the father or met the family and a man lay with her anyway, and he still became that woman's husband? Is there anything in the scripture that tell you about that?
No. You cannot. If you lay with her, let me ask. If you ask me a question, give me the opportunity to answer. For example, where it says that if a man lays with a woman, exactly, if a man were to entice a woman, and it's important, the word entice is there. If a man were to entice, to lure, to use some type of deception to make her make a decision she might not have made on her own under other circumstances. If a man were to entice a woman who is not betrothed and lay with her, that he surely endows her to be his wife. That doesn't mean that the covenant was created. It means now a covenant is obligated. He now has to go to that father because he skipped that step. You don't get to skip it and never go back to it. You have done something out of order. Now the order must be restored. It says that man has to go back to her father, pay the penalty for defiling his daughter, and even then, that woman is a perfect example, because even then, the father can say no. Thank you for paying your penalty. No, you can't go anywhere with my daughter. I don't care that you had sex with her. Your penis does not constitute anything. This is not the magic stick to abracadabra anybody into marriage. You have to go through the appropriate steps. In the case that you find a woman in the field, there's all of these different scenarios, all of which means you go back to the family. You never get to skip that step.
Let me ask you a question. If a woman's just betrothed, okay, meaning promised to a man, and another man sleep with her, okay,
correct,
and this man haven't touched her.
What's your question?
You hold on, War. You still there? War. I think we have a little issues. War, are you there? I see you on the phone line. Oh, this call actually just dropped. Dropped. Actually, we have somebody chiming in, but go ahead. I know you wanted to say something, Mayanah. Go ahead.
No, actually, no. I was hoping that if there was somehow I could clarify that point further, because I was wondering if he needed me to clarify that point further, because even in that case where we see that a man has skipped the necessary steps, that he's gone to the point where he's already broken the seal, so to speak, and he's already engaged in that particular act, we still see that the law bears out that he still doesn't get to claim her, and that having broken that seal and made that step, he's only defiled her. And that's where that penalty comes in. That's why he has to pay those shekels. That's a penalty. And once he goes to that father can still refuse it because the father consent. That first step of consent is necessary. Our sister Emunah clearly illustrated for us how Abraham does exactly the same thing. He goes and he sends someone in his stead to negotiate this marriage first. The father, the woman's father, still is a participant in this arrangement, even though it's already established in the narrative that this is something that the Most High has put together, that Rebecca has already been chosen for Isaac. Even in the dialogue between the two men, this is stated. But still, the process is honored. Still gives his consent for his daughter to go. Gifts are exchanged, covenants are made, and then there's consummation. There's an order to all things, and we say this so liberally. We say there's an order to all things all the time. We say it and apply it to all of these things, but one of the most sacred of intercourse between men and women, we don't have any sense of there has to be decency, there has to be order. We think that it's okay to hump our ways into a holy covenant, and that just sounds so foreign to me.
Let me ask you a question.
Get a war. Get it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. Okay, so I want to ask you this question. So going back to the topic, the title of the topic, and the whole what it's about, do you believe that if a man, the first man a woman have, that's her husband, according to what was from the beginning? Do you believe that?
I believe that the first there is all those four things in place, a marriage has taken place. A woman who has had sexual relationships with someone, there's a such thing as being defiled. There's a such thing as being deceived. There's a such thing as being raped. Those things have happened. That's why Exodus 22:6 says if the man entices a woman. So no, you cannot say, because she has sex or because you have had sex with all of these women. It's very interesting that we're only on this woman has had sex. All of these women whom you've had sex with, I'm certain, or a man has had sex, I want to make it personal, but all of these men who have had all these previous relationships, all of their first relationships, they have not created marital bonds with. They have defiled those women. And I mean, do you accept that there is a difference between defiling a woman and creating a marriage bond with that woman?
Yeah, let me say this.
I need you to answer that question.
Wait a minute. That's why I asked. Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning. I'm dealing with what was in the beginning. That's why I started my conversation from what was in the beginning. I'm not talking about people defiling and rape when the earth went in the direction of evil. Let me finish. Let me finish. And I'm finished, and then I'll give you the floor. Okay? I'm talking about before evil stepped in the earth, before Satan deceived the world and the whole voyage of evil started. In the beginning, during the time of Adam and Eve, okay, from the beginning. Was the purpose of the Creator was that a woman, the first man that slept with a woman, that was her husband. I'm not talking about later down the line when men started laying with all these different men and not keeping that ordinance. Way before the destruction. That's what I'm asking you. What was in the beginning?
Now ask me about, let's be specific, let's say Adam and Eve specifically. Did that same order exist with Adam and Eve? Absolutely. There was consent, there's covenant, there's consummation, arguably there's celebration. Let's look at consent first. When Adam is in the garden, it is his father that says, you know what? It is not good for man to be alone. And he decides that his son needs to have a meat that's help for him. So a helpmeet for him, and he creates Eve. And Eve is presented. So her father presents her. There's a consent. Her father has consented. His father has consented. And there's a parallel to that with Abraham. Abraham looks at Isaac. This is not Isaac's decision. Isaac doesn't go to Abraham. Abraham says, you know what? It's time. It's time for Isaac to have a wife. And Abraham makes that decision. And Abraham goes and finds him a wife. Similarly, the Most High looks at Adam and says, you know what? It's time. It is not good for my son to be alone. And he goes and finds him a wife. Literally makes a wife for him. Made for him. So
was his wife a virgin? Was his wife a virgin? Yes or no?
How is that? I don't understand how that's a question. If she's newly created, what else could she have been?
No, we got to stay to the topic.
The topic is whether or not sex is marriage. So I'm on topic because I've already established that sex alone is not marriage.
What I'm asking you, is that a major let me rephrase the question. Is that a major factor that your wife must be a virgin? And was Abraham, the wife he got for his son, was she a virgin?
Of course she was.
I want to stay on topic. All right, that's all I want to hear.
The topic is not whether or not women are virgins. The topic is what constitutes marriage. Am I incorrect?
Now I'm asking you that question. Does being a virgin constitute marriage?
Let me be clear. So am I incorrect? Is the topic virginity or the topic what constitutes marriage?
Does laying with a woman makes her your wife? We're talking about laying with a woman. Does that make her your wife? Period.
We're not talking about virginity here. We're talking about what constitutes marriage. I stated what constitutes marriage is consent, covenant, consummation, and celebration, or arguably celebration, because the third thing is optional. But the fact is that those three elements are present, either between Adam and Eve. There is consent. There is a covenant.
So hold on, let me ask you a question. But you got to let people talk. So what you're saying is that consent takes precedent over the virgin part of the marriage. That's what you're saying.
Maybe let's try to actually put what I said. What I said is an order to things, and that comes first. What comes first is consent. The parents got together and made a contract between themselves. What I don't think that you understand is Hebraically, marriages did not occur between couples. They occurred between families. Families were involved in this. This had nothing to do with the couple. This had to do with what the families had established because it had to do with inheritance and property. It had a lot of factors that were involved in it. So, yes, you have to first begin with consent. The fathers got together and said, I agree to this match. That came first. Now, if you want to argue that during this period, the two fathers said, I'm giving my son only to a virgin, give me your virgin daughters, that's fine. I agree. There's no argument that the virginity of Israelite women were closely guarded. That's not an argument. The virginity of all women, actually, in antiquity, were closely guarded to those that were of marriageable age or considered for marriage. That's absolutely the case. That's not contested. What's contested is whether or not you can have sex with a woman and decide that is all you have to give her to create or forge a bond. That is not your marital bond. That is this conversation.
I still think it's important. I still think it's important though what Ahwar Da Swordsman is talking about, because there's other guys out there with this mindset. So anything pertaining to other people's mindsets, we need to speak about that. Because some brothers do believe, they're a virgin.
If she's not a virgin, she can't be. I don't understand what's the concept of it. We're not discussing whether or not a woman is a virgin. It's not up for. No one's contesting that Hebrew women would have been virgins. That's not contested. So it's not. I'm not sure how that is. What exactly is the argument to that? If there's
we're talking about.
Argument,
but we're still talking about laying with a woman though. So all that stuff is involved with that. Some people believe that, So, Emunah, anything you want to address? We have some other callers actually standing by too. I see you guys standing by. We're going to get to you callers. We're going to get to you guys. The number is 646-716-7320. Well, let's get Emunah involved as well. Emunah, anything you want to say?
It got turned up quick. I had to fall back and listen to well, what is really going on here in the conversation. As I said, it's great to continue to reiterate what the conversation is about. I think the deflection of whether or not she's a virgin is detracting from the reality of what we're having a conversation about today. In 2016, there are men walking around. They're not picking up virgins, so they're not really concerned as to whether or not she's a virgin. She can have 2, 3, 4, 5 children, and they say, once I lay with you, you my Isha. That is the conversation of tonight's topic, not whether or not she's a virgin. The conversation of tonight's topic is if you saw a shorty in the Knesset with some fringes in a skirt, you know what I'm saying, you say, come on, let's do some Bible study, and the next thing you know, you filling up on her, and tomorrow she's a Isha. That is the real life today conversation as it relates to the topic. Is that correct? Is this a source of issue within the community today, real time? About whether or not just laying with her, not speaking to a parent, not realizing that it is families that are marrying, and just isolating her, which is what happens very often. Once now she has been thought and tricked into thinking that she's married and that she cannot go, because there's a difference, like I believe Sister Mayanah brought it up, between being married and playing a harlot. So just because you lay with somebody doesn't mean that individual is married. There's also such a thing as playing a harlot or being a whoremonger. So when we look at the fact that this can be done in the nation, and here is another very interesting point about it, when we look in the book of 2 Samuel, because we have these instances, when we look at the book in 2 Samuel, and it's very short. In the book of 2 Samuel, the 2nd chapter, the sons of Eli at the time were at Shiloh, if you remember the conversation, and they were at Shiloh, and they was doing some real shiesty type behavior. You understand what I'm saying? They was digging in the pot. They were taking out choice pieces of meat. And it was one little verse in the 22nd chapter, that 22nd verse that said, and they laid with the women that came to the door of the tent of meeting. They wasn't marrying everybody they laid with, but they took their position and pimped it and then turned around and laid and defiled these women. That didn't make these women their wives. It made these women defiled. So the question is, again, does laying with the woman make her your wife? And at this point, we're examining in the Torah. So that's my few cents as it relates to that, because it is something that is going on, and not only is it going on, it's having the people to think under false pretenses that they are wed and that they are obligated to a marriage contract that doesn't exist. There is no terms of this contractual agreement. You understand what I'm saying? And then many are also using the Deuteronomy scripture to say, write her a bill of divorce and send her from your house. But how can you return something that you never acquired to begin with? You understand? So this creates also a problem in the whole scheme of nation building. And so, again, for those who are listening who are going to chime in, that is the topic, not really whether or not she's a virgin, but whether or not the man just laying with her, all of a sudden, now he can jump up and say, "You Maisha," and that's the question on the table. So,
can I come in? I got to come in on that, right?
Right.
The reason why I said that, because if you can start with your children, okay. The question is, what are you going to teach your daughters and your sons? Say our generation, we've been contaminated because we're in the darkness. We done made these mistakes. We done laid, women done laid with men that, they done had other men before. They done left their husbands. But like I said, from the beginning, this is the purpose. A woman is supposed to have one man in her lifetime. That's her husband. That's why I mentioned the seal, okay? Now, after that, once that's established, and you put that in your daughter's mind, you're only supposed to have one man in your lifetime. So then stage 2, when her father go marry her, because the father's supposed to marry the daughter, okay? What kind of man he's going to look for his daughter? A man of understanding. That's stage 2. There's stages in marriage. See, y'all got to get the balance. You got to get the foundation done first before you build all these other things. Now, you're discussing worst-case scenarios when men went evil. But when you go to what was in the beginning, what the father's purpose was for creating marriage, when you build from that structure, you got to put it in the right perspective. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Now, that's why another reason why I brought it up, because the New Testament, the gospel of Yahushua, we call him Yahushua, Christ, he's bringing it back to that original plan. That's why when you read about Paul put out there that if a woman is married and she have a problem with her husband, she can't go to another man. She had to stay with him. And if she want a man, she got to reconcile with the man she had. That's coming back to the original plan, even with divorce. The Messiah is bringing back the original plan. He said, look, Moses was given out a bill of divorce because of the hardness of your heart. But from the beginning, it was not so. So he's doing away with divorce. You're not just going to be going with all these different men. So that's why I'm bringing that up, because that structure is coming back. That's all I'm saying. But go ahead.
I wanted to just say something quickly, and then I'll give it over to your brother Sal. Thank you so much for that, brother. Oftentimes I notice, and this is good because this is what this conversation is about, the relationship challenge, and really bridging the gap of sometimes what it seems like miscommunication. If we notice and we listen, we're having two different conversations at the same time.
Right.
You're speaking about, and it's just my observation, you're speaking about what it's supposed to be, and we're speaking about what it is. You understand what I'm saying? And that gap oftentimes loses us in translation. What it is today is that men are luring women, and women are all too willing to believe that once I lay with you, I am your husband, and you must do as I say. At the same time, there is no support system oftentimes. There is no protection oftentimes. There is no inheritance for your children oftentimes. So I understand what you're saying. It's supposed to be, but as we're reading or going through this challenge as it is today, when you look to the left, to the right, and to the north and to the south, there are countless situations that reflect the narrative of laying with the woman, defiling the woman, no commitment to that woman or that family. Oftentimes the family knows nothing about you. You understand what I'm saying? There's no support system, and the only qualifier is that you know how to read some scripture and you got on some ZCs. And this is a problem that is existing today. I'm not sure if you're familiar where you are, but there are quite a number of people who can testify that this is a real and present issue today.
Right. Can I say this right quick?
Go ahead. I was just going to say, how do we acknowledge the reality of what is happening? And the reality of, and I've heard the people myself, that people are stuck in situations with, and then using scripture, but the scripture that they're using is only helping to more oppress people. And I'm not saying or advocating anyone being a whoremonger or a harlot, but the reality is that is what's actually happening in the name of your Maisha.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and let me add to that. That's why Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. See, you're dealing with the aftermath of people not having this true knowledge, what was from the beginning, and they're making these mistakes. They're getting in these wrong relationships. They don't know about the diary. They don't know about the true marriage concept, so they're making these mistakes. That's what I'm saying. We can't deal with the aftermath. We got to educate the people on what was in the beginning and what could possibly happen if you don't go back to the beginning customs. You can get lost in the gross darkness, and that's what happened. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're talking about the aftermath. After these people done made these mistakes because they have a lack of knowledge of the customs of our fathers. That's why those mistakes are present. But if we start reiterating, we can snap that curse. If you start reiterating this true knowledge and putting it back in your children and restructuring your children right and bringing them in from the original plan, then that curse will disappear. You'll see less situations like that. That's what I'm saying. I'm about not just the problem but the solution as well. But go ahead, sister.
I want to be clear because I hear the brother now saying that the reason that these unions are being established is because of the fact that they are not familiar with the true covenant process. And I heard him speak about dowry and the fact that these people are unaware and consequently not implementing that. So are you agreeing and confirming that those things must be in place and the sex alone does not constitute a holy covenant? Indeed, one must have consent, must go through the dowry process, must adhere to all of these Hebraic understandings first, and that sex is the privilege of marriage. It is not the producer of marriage.
Yeah, let's. I got some calls in about actually, and let me bring some in real quick. Let's go to 240-799. You're live in the air.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show. Yeah, 240. Can you hear me? 240. You're on the air.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you have a question or comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Emunah said that if they lay with a woman, it makes her your wife. I want to know, what is the, like, if you lay with a woman before marriage, isn't that considered fornication to some Christian concepts?
I'm sorry, was that question for me?
Yeah. Emunah. I mean, for anyone. Because,
go ahead.
Yeah, because, most Christians, they teach that if fornication is having sex before marriage. So, they were saying that some believe that if you lay with a woman, that make her your wife, but wouldn't that break the law also?
I mean, to my understanding of the question, I'll try to share what I know concerning that. As I earlier on shared the story of Dinah, the greatest thought, ancient thought that we have in the testimonies of what that will make her. If we read Genesis 34, after Shechem humbles Dinah and defiles her, the brothers Simeon and Levi asked the question. They didn't say, necessarily that he committed fornication with her. He treated her as she was a harlot.
Right.
And this is why this is the justification. Actually, when you jump all the way down to 30, when they went on to mash up, in Jamaican terms, mash up the whole city. You understand what I'm saying? He says, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? And we see that harlotry, that's what it is. And we see also in the case of Judah and Tamar, Judah went into what they called a harlot, or what he thought was a harlot. And when they found her with seed, they came back and told her, you understand? Oh, man, your daughter-in-law is far with the seed of harlotry, meaning she laid down without a covenant and she conceived. And so this is what the Torah will say, that it was harlotry. And you can see that in the text very clearly. And so whether or not you want to call it fornication, which oftentimes when I looked up the word fornication and harlotry, in Hebrew, oftentimes it was the same word, which is zana. And so that's something to look into, but that's the word that the Old Testament uses, is harlotry.
Okay, so what like you so what like really institute a marriage, like, because like when you see like in the Old Testament it says Adam knew his wife, don't knew and like in a sense mean to come together, like to perceive or something like that, but she was already his wife, you know what I'm saying, when they came together.
To my understanding, then I'll give it over. Like I said, as Sister Mayanah has reiterated many times, there's different steps to it, and we see those steps in the book of Deuteronomy as it speaks about if a man is betrothed to a woman. When he's betrothed to her, it's the promise stage. You understand what I'm saying? That connection has already been made with the parents to show that you're interested in this woman. And that betrothal is the promise to say, I'm going to deliver her as your wife. But the whole thing is not consummated. This is why I think I wrote it down. In Deuteronomy 20, for instance, if the man betrothed and he didn't lay with her, that's Deuteronomy 20th chapter, like verse 7, because this is something that came up when we were looking into this topic. The betrothal is the promise, meaning, what modern day they call engagement. Now, everybody knows this person is off the market. This person, you cannot say you want to approach her to be with her. So in this case, in Deuteronomy 20 and 7, it says, and what man is there that have betrothed a wife and have not taken her? Like Sister Mayanah is saying, you can betroth someone or there's some consent, but you haven't laid with her yet. And then it says, let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle and another man take her. So he is already going through the steps of which to acquire a wife, but it's not finished as yet. And so as she's saying, to jump to say that you've laid, like which man has laid with a wife but hasn't betrothed her? You understand what I'm saying? So the order of things is to first make that connection, as it says in the Torah, and then proceed when it is that everything is said and done for you to lay with that woman and take her as your wife. But again, that's not really what's happening to a large degree. And as the brother said, it is post trauma, or it is post what it is that we're experiencing now, the curses, but the reality is it's still what's happening. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, let's let Mayanah jump in. Anything you want to add to that?
No, absolutely not. That's exactly what I would have said. I would want to share also another example, because Emunah and I are trying to give you examples from Scripture. So it's not the case that Mayanah said or Emunah has said. We've shown you in Scripture where Isaac and Rebekah's union did not begin with in the tent, out the tent. It began with a conversation between parents. We showed also with Adam and Eve the same is true. It didn't begin with and he knew her. It began with the Most High, with the Father saying, it's not good it's time for my son to have. And then he presents his daughter to this man. So there's still that involvement, that those steps are not skipped. When Dinah is defiled by Shechem, there's also that he comes back to he knew that he humbled her, and he goes back to Jacob and says, ask me so much dowry, I'll give it to you. Only give her to me to be my wife. He understood that the fact that he humbled her did not give him access to her. He still had to go through the steps. And we see this bear out, and we see this play out over and over again. We hear it actually still in these two again with Judah and Tamar. Also with David's son Amnon and his stepsister Tamar. The same thing occurs. The brother has affection and lust for his sister. And when he has sex with her, we hear her response. What she says to him is, now let's go to our father, and you have to make me your wife. Because, and he's saying, when her brother refuses to do that, his refusal to make her a legitimate wife, she says, that's even worse than what you have just done to me. The first thing he did was rape her or take her by force. He's had sex with her. That did not make them married. She said, now let's go to my father. You have to at least make this right. You have defiled me. She didn't feel married. She felt dirty and defiled because that's what happened. There was nothing to cover her. This was not her husband. Her father wasn't involved. Those things were not in place. This was not a marriage. That was sex. And sex without a covenant, sex without your parents' consent, sex without a covering is defilement. And
Can I come in on that? Can I come in on that? Okay. I'm gonna give the audience a scenario of marriage where no parents was involved. Okay? Let me show you something. This is Deuteronomy 21:10. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thy hands, and thou hast taken them a captive, and seest among them captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife. Now, no parents is involved here. Let me read. Then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails. Then it says, and she shall put, let me finish, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. Why? Because in that war, her father and mother got killed, right? A full month, and after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whither she will, but thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her. So this is a whole different scenario of marriage as well. There's different scenarios of marriage. But go ahead. What do you want to say?
Well, I think that did he hear? Do you understand the context that you just presented? This is not a Hebraic marriage covenant. This is spoil. You are discussing the consequence and results of war.
This is spoil. That's not spoil.
I'm sorry. That's exactly spoil. When you read it, because do you remember what you just said? If you go into a nation and conquer it, and you take captives, that is spoil. That is not entering into a holy covenant. That is saying, I am victorious, I have gone to war, and I am bringing back spoil. That woman is a product of spoil. This is not a romantic. Excuse me, it's captivity.
It didn't say spoil. It said made her his wife. That didn't say spoil.
I'm sorry.
You added
said
that.
Captive. Did you?
No. Did you read the white part? You got to read what it says in the scriptures. It didn't say nothing about spoil. Let me read it again.
So did you or did you not say captive? Did you or not say this is the?
Yeah, that's not spoil. You know what spoil is?
Yeah, let her speak. I'm gonna give you the floor. Okay. Let her speak though. Let her speak. I'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
The context is war. The context is conquer. The context is captivity. She is brought back as a captive. She is not brought back as a wife. She is made into, and again, I think you can factor in the fact that Sister Emunah very plainly states that woman and wife don't have different words in Hebrew. And you see that she can leave. Now, we know that according to Torah, you can't just set free a woman and she can leave and she's free to do what she wants. And according to Torah, when a marriage covenant is in place, not the spoil consequences in place, but when a marriage covenant is in place, for a wife to lawfully be separated from her husband, a writ of divorce has to happen. You have to do two things. It's not just one thing. You have to do two things. You have to put a writ in her hand and send her from her home. That is when a covenant has been severed, when there is a marriage covenant in place. You have brought out Deuteronomy, which very specifically says if I send you to war to conquer a foreign nation and you bring back a captive, you can do those things. And then you go on to provide that there are no parents involved because he's already killed them. Unless you are going to liken that, because this is the conversation we are having are about Hebraic marriages. So unless you are saying that what a man should do is go into a father's house, kill him, and snatch up his daughter and have her shave her head and pare her nails and all these other things, this is not an analogous conversation. We're talking about Hebraic marriages. There are no men or no man. You should not be instructing any of these Hebrew men to go and invade the homes of Hebrew fathers and kidnap their daughters and take them as captives, shave all their heads because you've killed their father. This is not the conversation we're having. We're talking about holy covenants, Hebraic covenants, the kind of covenant marriages we're supposed to do right now. The context is not war. It is not conquering. It is not captivity. It is the free in terms of not in captivity woman, free Hebrew woman, and a husband who is taking her into his home, and that under this context, these 4 steps are present. There is consent. There's a conversation between the elders. Then there's a covenant. There's an agreement, some type of protection. We understand what's going to happen within this union. There's a covenant. And then there is consummation. No one is disputing the consummation must happen or can happen or should happen. We're saying that there's an order. There's things that happen beforehand, just like with your previous analysis about an analogy about the seal and the lid and all. You cannot go to a product and start you can just opening things in a store. You can't do that. You have to go through the process.
Can I respond to that?
All right, I got to let a war jump in real quick, and after that, we got some more callers standing by. We're gonna get to you guys. Stand by. But get a war.
All right. Yeah, you made a statement just now, and that's what I'm saying. You got to talk according to the scriptures. You made a statement, right, that you said in a Hebrew marriage or something like that, a woman couldn't walk away. That's what you just said, right? So I'm going to read something. This is Exodus 21, verse 9. It said, now this is talking about when a man have a Hebrew servant, how he deal with her if she's betrothed. Now check it out. It says, and if he have betrothed her unto himself, promise her, all right, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. You know what the manner of daughters is? The custom of the Hebrews. All right, let me finish. Okay, then it says, if he take him another wife, right, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Let me finish. Then it says, and if he do not these 3, unto her, guess what happens? It says, then shall she go out free without money. And that's the custom of the daughter, so that means you lied. Okay?
Actually,
you got to know what you're talking about.
That's the number one.
That's not. You said. Hold
on. Let her get it all out first.
Yeah,
we got all night. Get a war.
I'm
just making sure you stick to the script because you said that.
I'm gonna need you to tell me the script. No, absolutely not. Because you're not going to call me a liar.
Let me finish.
Okay. How about this? Either A, you stick to the scripture. You don't call me anything out my name again. And then you don't have to worry.
That's why I don't like reasoning with women. They get emotional, man. Go ahead.
You call me out of my name, but I'm emotional? That's cute. Continue.
Go ahead.
We're just having a dialogue here. Let's take it personal. Let's take it personal. Let's take some of these callers. They've been standing by patiently. So let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Let's go to 425-737. You're live on the air.
Shalom and shalom to everybody. This is Yaakov. I just wanted to make a few quick comments because though I think some of the things that Ahwar Da Swordsman said about, a woman should be a virgin and things, those things are very, very important, and it's something that all Israelite men were to seek to obtain a virgin for themselves. But to just say that the act of sex itself constitutes marriage, you can't find that said anywhere in the Torah that sex constitutes marriage. And some of the illustrations that the sisters gave clearly show that. Because, again, like they showed where if a man goes and entices a woman and lies with her, he still has to go pay the dowry of a virgin. Then he has to get permission from her father for that. And if Torah is the foundation or the Constitution of Israel, then that is the law. There's no way around that. No matter what we say, we can't get around that. And like they said, even going back to the beginning, the Most High himself gave Adam that wife. So that's still a covenant between the two. And I will ask this one question, though, to Ahwar Da Swordsman. Can he show me anywhere in the scriptures where a covenant is established without some means of terms of agreement on both sides and consequences for keeping that covenant and not keeping that covenant? Because the marriage is a covenant, so I have to see if there's a covenant like that anywhere in scriptures.
All right. No, I'm not arguing that, of course, but what I'm trying to say is this: she's trying to sidetrack that rigidity. Because remember what she said. She said that the consent is more. That's why I asked her that. She's trying to say the consent is more important than the actual woman being a virgin. And you can't take a woman in those days, the way it was from the beginning. You can't take a woman and she's not a virgin. You can't do that, and I'm going to prove it. This is Deuteronomy 22. I'm going to read this. And it says, verse 13, it says, if any man, I'm going to read it fast. It says, if any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her, okay, and give occasion of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Meaning he did the dowry, went to the father, gave the money, and then when he took her, he found out she wasn't a maid. She wasn't a virgin. He went back to the father. Say, hey, man, you told me this. That's why he took her, because she was a virgin. That's the main principle. Back in ancient times, the woman had to be a virgin before he do everything else fall in place. And look what happened if they found out she wasn't a virgin. This was verse 19. And they shall immense, if he make the false accusation, this is what happened. It says, and they shall immense him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he hath wrought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel, and she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all the day. Then it says, but if this thing be true, meaning she's not a maid, she's not a virgin, look what happened. And the tokens of her virginity been not found, because the token of her virginity was when they consummated the marriage, they put the cloth there, and when he broke that hymen that I brought up, blood got on the cloth. The parents took the cloth and held it. That was the records and the evidence that she was a virgin. Okay? And I'm going to read it again. So, but if this thing be true, and the tokens of a virgin be not found for the damsel, then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, right? Mm-hmm. And the men of her city shall stone her with stones, that she die. That's how imperative it was for a woman to be a virgin. That's what I'm saying. Yes, that was in the beginning. Okay.
Can I comment on that? There's many things being said here, and for the sake of those who are listening, as I said earlier on, anytime we read or pick up something in the middle of the text, we can basically make it say whatever we want. If it is that someone, in the one that brother just read, if someone is going to the father specifically under the pretext that she's a virgin, that's one thing. But if we read in the book of Leviticus, the 21st chapter, what is this, like the 14th verse, we see as it is for the sons of Levi, the priestly class. And when it's giving them instruction, and I bid you to read the whole thing, but it's giving them instruction of who to marry and who not to marry. So not everyone necessarily took a virgin. And we see that in the case of when someone had to be a kinsman redeemer. You understand? We see that in the case of Boaz and Ruth. He knew that Ruth was no virgin, but he took her anyway. You understand what I'm saying? And in the case when King David stepped out of what he was supposed to do, he knew when he said, hey, man, whose Isha is this? And it was like, yo, it's such and such Isha. All right. He went into her anyway, and he tried to take him onto himself, even though it was for lustful other reasons. The point of the matter is, as it relates to the priest, it says, he shall take a wife of her virginity, a widow or a divorced woman or a profaner or a harlot. These shall he not take, but he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife. So my point of the matter is, not everyone took a virgin, and we see that especially when the law constitutes that in the case even of Shelah and which is Judah's sons, he said, go in on to your brother's widow, basically, and bear a son in her name. That's a law. That is a law. So therefore, not everyone took a virgin is my point of the matter. But if you did go to the father specifically that she is a virgin and she's not, then that's a different case. But that's to say if somebody is a widow, then she will never get remarried. You understand? And we see that that's not true according to the Torah.
I would like to address something because I keep getting reference and not getting the opportunity to respond because he keeps saying she, and I am that she. So I would like an opportunity to address the things that I'm being accused of, if that's okay.
Yeah, Mayanah, go ahead. Mayanah, yeah. Go ahead. Her name is Mayanah, too. What it was.
This is Mayanah. Something he alleges that I said was that a woman could not do whatever. What I said was it was a free woman. The example that he used for his gotcha moment was of an enslaved woman. And even then, he reads from the King James Version that says that actually inserts the word wife and inserts all of this other context and premise that does not exist in the Hebrew, but I'm not going to go into that because obviously he hasn't studied the Hebrew to discuss that, so it's not a fair discussion. But let's be clear, what I said was a free Hebrew woman. You cannot give an example of an enslaved Hebrew woman to say that I'm in error. Second, this brother went on to say that Emunah was giving the example of the levirate. For example, in the example of the levirate, where the redeeming kinsman is going into a woman who's obviously been married before with no repercussions. Similarly, when we look at a woman who has been in a covenant marriage and has received a legitimate divorce, once she has received the divorce in her hand and sent out of her husband's house, she's allowed to remarry. This, again, is going to be a woman who is not a virgin, to remarry without consequence. Secondly, the brother stated that there's something else the brother accused me of having said, and erroneously, because I didn't say that either. So it's really hard to catch me in something that I had not said. When it comes to me, I'll address it again, but I want to say first and foremost that since I did not say that an enslaved woman didn't do whatever, and it should be noted that anyone who has access to Exodus 21, the chapter that he is discussing, there is marriage language in the beginning where the servant is a male and has gone into certain relationships with a woman. But when we're talking at the second part where this woman is in relationship with the son of this owner, there is absolutely zero marriage language even present in the actual Hebrew. It's inserted. Even when you look in your biblical canon, the word wife and married and another wife, all of that is in italics because it was added, inserted. It doesn't exist in the original Hebrew. What doesn't exist? It's a conversation for us to have. Yeah.
What doesn't exist?
Yeah, now you got to flow. Got to walk.
Yeah, you said what you said didn't exist? I missed that.
There's no marriage language in the original Hebrew for Exodus 21. The word wife isn't there, let alone another wife. The fourth wife is not there. You can look it up. I don't make these things up. You can absolutely look it up in the Hebrew. Emunah, does your study of that chapter bear something similar?
Yeah, correct. Just for the edification of the conversation, there's a lot of things that, sometimes we suppose was there as we just skip over it. But then there's times that others have gone a little bit deeper into it. And as the sister is saying, and the brother and everybody who's on the line, for sake of clarity, one might not see it, but definitely go back and revisit Exodus 21 and read it in the context. There are other things in the Torah that lets us know that, first of all, the situation of the captive woman could have never been a Hebrew girl. First of all. Second of all, you cannot press your brother to hard labor. That's in the Torah. So therefore, you could not take a Hebrew girl as a bondservant. So when we see that that you are going to talk about marriage, it's not as it relates. You would be, for an example, you're talking about like Hagar. Hagar, it says Hagar was his concubine. Because you go into different, our culture was stratified in that degree. You understand what I'm saying? But this question that we have on the table today is as it relates to whether or not our culture, not a stranger, not the heathen, not someone round about you, because there's stipulations for dealing with them, not unjustly, but there's still stipulations for dealing with them. We're talking about those who are waking up to the truth of who they know. Is it correct for men to go around and for women to assume, and I keep bringing it back here, the reason I am because there's so many people listening, and this is a real problem. You understand what I'm saying? So let me right? And then I'm gonna relinquish. Is it right to continue to perpetuate this thought process that consummation alone constitutes marriage, when in the reality, the person cannot call your name. If you're in the hospital, they ain't on the list as next of kin. If they go to the bank, they cannot draw out anything. You have no responsibility for them because on paper you don't exist. This is where women who have 5, 6, 7 children for these men can't say anything, do anything. That is not Hebraic. And one more thing, in the case of Laban, with his daughters, when Jacob decided to, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go on Laban because you keep changing my wages, Laban ran him down because he thought he had his deities. But what he said to him was, hey, we're going to make this covenant because I'm watching you. And if you pull no shicey stuff with my daughters, and I'm paraphrasing, the Emunah paraphrase, but basically it's going to be a problem. And he had to agree to the father of those daughters who still had that protective mechanism over them to say, I'm watching you. So the Torah continues to bear out that the family was supposed to be a protective mechanism for the daughter to make sure that her rights are in place. And what is being done is that she has no rights in this day and time. And we can argue back and forth, but the point of the matter is, which I really don't want to be lost, is because right now we're lost. And as we're coming to the reality of this, we can argue all day, but can we see the clarity of what is really going on? So at this point, I relinquish the mic.
All right, let me come in on that. Right, this is Isaiah 60. I'm gonna try to make it as clear as possible. This is Isaiah 60 verse 2. This is a prophecy on the condition of the earth. It says, "For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth." What darkness? That darkness that started way back in Genesis. Okay. There was a disruption. That's why I started in the beginning. A lot of you now are dealing in the aftermath after the fall of Adam and Eve. Okay? I'm going to read it again. "For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people." So all those beautiful ordinances, the purpose that the Most High created for, the real purpose of marriage, the real origin of marriage, have been obliterated due to the curse of Adam and Eve. And it trickled down into our generation, and we're still dealing with it. Y'all are dealing with the aftermath, okay? Now, the New Testament, which is under Yahushua, Christ, the Messiah, he's bringing it back to the original plan, which was from the beginning. That's why a lot of people can't understand the New Testament. He's destroying what was destroyed. I mean, the evil that was brought in the garden through Satan and all that, he's correcting that and bringing it back to the original plan the Creator had. And that's why I went to what was in the beginning. Y'all are not dealing with what was in the beginning, okay? Y'all talking about the events that happened as earth trickled down in this evil atmosphere, or what the serpent did from the garden that caused the earth to go in the direction of evil. Y'all are squabbling in that. Let's go to the beginning. What was in the beginning? That's what I'm asking. So go ahead.
All right, hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Mayanah. You gonna reply? And I actually got some people standing by, and also seeing your comments on social media. I'm gonna let people know what you guys are saying on the air. But go ahead, Mayanah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to be clear because I've heard it misstated before. I'm not speaking about virginity at all, or saying that there's something that has priority. What I stated was there was an order to things, and things happen in a particular order. And unless you are objecting to order, I really don't understand, because you're saying that we're not going to the beginning. In order for us to reclaim and restore and rebuild and what has been destroyed, is that we have to first fix what's broken. We cannot, like, for example, you ask, what am I going to teach my daughter? What I'm going to teach my daughter is not to fall for some guy who says, if I have sex with you, that's all I owe you. I don't have to talk to your father. I don't have to go through your parents. I don't owe you a covenant. My penis is all you get. I'm going to hand you the deed, and you're going to be my wife. She has to know that is not a covenant. That's how I'm going to. What we need to do is we need to correct that idea so that our daughters don't fall for that. You want to go back to the beginning? I, too, want to go back to the beginning. Our daughters should come out. Our daughters, this next generation behind us, they're virgins. We need to protect them. But in order to protect them, we have to create solid unions now. So the people who are our age, the people who are getting married right now, the ones who are going to usher in this generation behind them are going to have to be the ones to say, we're going to get this right now. Right now, we have to stop accepting that the D is all. That's what this conversation is about. Do we continue to promote this conversation where all you have to do is to sleep with someone, and that has constituted a union? If that's what if that's what you accept right now, then of course you're going to tell your children that, and we're going to create a cycle that's not broken.
Okay, let me say this. Hold on. You got to hold that thought, brother. Okay. Let me add some 2 cents to this conversation real quick, because we get a lot of responses, and this is definitely a hot topic. Emunah, you got a lot of responses on social media. The Relationship Challenge Volume 1 is laying with a woman makes her your wife, because we got to bring it to 2016. And a lot of these brothers out here on social media, what they're saying is, and I don't necessarily agree, but what they're saying is some of them they consider the women that they lay with their wife. Why? Because they're bringing up the pagan aspect of marriage. They're saying it's the way people get married now is not the way it was done before. So that's their reason. And I want you guys to call in. I see you guys on social media. The number is 646-716-7320. Let your voice be heard. So they're actually using that as a reason that laying with the woman is actually their wife. Also, the child support aspect of it. They're saying if that's the case, then a lot of when they make children with these women, they still got to take care of these women, things of that nature. What do you ladies think about those comments being made about the pagan aspect of marriage today, and also brothers got to pay child support and stuff like that? Let's start off with Mayanah. Okay.
Oh man, I had that one, Sal, but go ahead.
Emunah, you go ahead so I can finish it up. I'm looking up something. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. I'm glad that point was brought up, because, again, like you said, bringing it into 2016, we have to be, we have to, yes, what the brother is saying, outline the reality of what it's supposed to be, but to enable to accurately get to what it's supposed to be, you have to acknowledge what it is. And acknowledgement is the first step in healing. You understand what I'm saying? If someone doesn't acknowledge they're sick, they're not going to go and seek help. So we need to acknowledge the reality of where we are today. And these are some of the reasons that the brothers are bringing up: child support, responsibility, Babylon, captivity, all of these things. What I find interesting in my study of history is that this model, and that's actually what I wanted to come to, this model that is being practiced today is not ancient biblical model, because as we just saw through numerous scriptures, we see it nowhere. What we do see, the model that's being practiced today, is post-slavery model. In slavery, you did not need permission of the parents, because the children ultimately did not belong to the parents. And I have many testimonies for those who want to read or hear one of the books. One of the very interesting books is called Weebles in the Wheat, 318 or so testimonies of ex-slaves. They lived after the Civil War. And what they were, when asked about the subject of marriage and how it went, basically it went like this. Well, you asked master because you saw a gal that you liked. He say yes, and that's your woman. Courting and consummation happened on the same day in most situations. So the point of the matter is that all of the parameters that we're talking about was totally removed, and it was to the master's benefit that you just laid with this woman, because you procreated more little slave babies for him, of which you did not have to support because they were master's property. Fast forward to today, still see that type of behavior. There was no official ceremony. There was no official recognition. And here's the kicker. You ready? You can have as many as you want. You understand what I'm saying? You could be like, Master, I see another one on James Plantation. He's like, all right, take the slip of paper. We'll let them know what it do. Just know that them babies is mine. So we have to really take the time to step back and look at what is being done in this mindset that we had people like breeders who were just out there to just go and breed and take no responsibility of the children. So if we're going to talk about marriage and we're going to talk about the reasons why you really don't want to commit, there are many things that's going to come up. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to have nothing to do with Abraham, who sent a whole convoy over to bring out not only Rebecca, but her whole family. So where Laban was like, yo, where did you get that from? You understand what I'm saying? His eyes was open. He already knew they was laden. We're not going to see that. What we are going to see is, I'm broke, you're broke, I like you, you like me. You understand? That kind of stuff. And we marry. You understand? So the point of the matter is, when we dig deeper into our immediate history, not to say that we cannot reach back to Torah, but we are right now in this space and time, like the brother says, this is after. So we are not relating to it. And when we are trying to relate to it with no point of reference, this is where everybody falls in the gap. Our real point of reference for marriage in this space and time, more often than not, is the slavery model. And until we really understand that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, and that Isaac wasn't 40 years old till he got married, and to make sure that you can provide, build a house, provide for those children, and make sure that you can take care and protect that wife, until you can do that in ancient times and now, you're not really ready. And no one is really saying these things. All it takes is I got a desire, you got a desire, let's go. And this is why we're falling into the places that we are. So that's my comment. I'm sorry I went kind of long, but I got to relinquish the mic.
Oh, yeah. Mayanah Johnson, go ahead.
No, I want to say that I agree, obviously, with our sister. And there is this idea that it's a point of contention when we start talking about child support, which is unusual because supporting one's child has always been, historically, one of the things that men were very proud of. You know, it's not something that you needed to be court-ordered or appointed to do. If we were to remain true to our marriage covenants, you wouldn't be ordered by any court to support your children because they'd be home with you. You'd be married to the woman that you made a mother of. And, you know, this idea that it's a problem to support your children is kind of hard to hear from our men, because it's not that our men don't know that children need to be maintained. It's that it sounds in many cases that they resent money going into homes with women that they're not with, and they're concerned about how that money is being spent, whether or not it's being spent on their children. And these are concerns that you would not have, or we would not be experiencing if we were holding true to our original covenant plans. You know, you go in, again, one of the things that Emunah has said several times is that, especially as illustrated with the example with Laban, you see that these two sisters were covered by their father. The idea that these men are having these women without going through these families is a way to usurp that covering. You are usurping the authority and the ability to cover that man's daughter by going into that home and taking that woman. There's no one to cover her. You've taken her. There's no one who's going to advocate for her, no one who's going to protect her. And on the other side of that, there's no one who's going to vouch for her to you. There's no one for you to say, who raised you? Go, like we see that with the husband in Deuteronomy. The husband goes back to the father and says, look what you gave me. What is the father is accountable. That's your daughter. You told me she was this way. I have a problem with you. And he brought it back to her father. Likewise, if this woman has a problem, there's no male kin around to make this man accountable. If you felt that you were accountable to her father, if you felt that you were accountable to her brothers, you would not treat her that way. And that is why there's this particular order. These things are in place because there's orders for all things. That's why we keep trying to impress upon this conversation that marriage is not between couples, not Hebraically. Hebraically, marriages are between families. It's an extension of better families, bigger families, protection of property and inheritance so that we become a solid nation where we are accountable to one another. And this issue of accountability is what has been removed from the process. And that's why we have so many broken agreements, because they're not even full covenants. We have broken agreements. We have broken unions. We have husbands that feel like their wives don't understand submission. And you have to understand that submission is a product of vulnerability. For a woman to fully submit, she has to feel vulnerable. She has to admit to vulnerability. And in order for a woman to be vulnerable, she has to feel safe. And to feel safe, there has to be safe things in place. But if you put her in a position where there's nothing to protect her, there's no safety, there's no covenant, there's no oath, there's nothing. You've only given her penis that's nothing to rely on. And that's the conversation. It was interesting to me. I don't think the brother on the panel disagrees. I don't believe that he disagrees that more than just sex has to occur. Because of the fact that the woman's virginity was something that was so important and protected, that sex was not something that was entered into lightly. That for a man to have access to a woman, certain things had to be in place. That woman was responsible for guarding her virginity. That family guarded her virginity because it would bring a bad name on them if that wasn't the case. Don't let your daughters play the harlot. That's in our book. We understand that. So this woman's virginity, this woman's morality. Those things were protected, and they were protected by these steps.
Yeah, Emunah call actually just drop. Call back when you get a chance, Emunah. War, you can go ahead.
Yeah. See, I want to read this, right? That's why I always go back to the beginning, okay? This is Genesis 2, verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. The reason that clause is put in there, so there's no interference with the family. And number two, it tell you in Apocrypha, when a man married his wife to a man, that man is thoroughly scrutinized. And you got to separate. I'm going to tell the sister right here, you need to separate the actions of a boy from a man, okay? We don't come from that. You're talking about things that boys do. We died and lived for these statutes and customs. That's why I brought out the scripture about the gross darkness. So you're talking about the darkness. In ancient times, we lived and ruled by these laws, okay? And we didn't do those things, especially if a man married his daughter. He took it up. And there's even a clause in the Bible where if he felt you wasn't dealing with his daughter right, he could tell his daughter, come home. But go ahead.
The Genesis thing is the second. It goes back to what I said before. I said that those steps are still in place. Because step one was still the father making that decision on behalf of both his son and his daughter. The second step is the covenant, which is what you just quoted, where the husband has said, or the male involved in this betrothal period has said, a man will leave his mother and his father and cleave into his wife. So this is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. This is Adam making a declaration. He's creating a covenant. That's step two. You are illustrating that the steps are still in place. I'm not saying that the father, because obviously she's left her father's home. In Genesis, what you are discussing is a man leaving his mother and his father, which doesn't happen afterwards. What happens is that because the fact of the matter is Hebraic culture is patrilineal, patrilocal, and patriarchal. Patrilocal means that the woman leaves her family and lives with her husband's family. So the husband doesn't go anywhere. The husband stays with his family. She leaves her family. But the point that I was making is that the steps, because which is all I've been saying for the entire conversation, is that there's an order. There's consent, there's covenant, there's consummation, and then there's arguably celebration. And you are steadily illustrating that all of those things, even from the beginning, are present. We have the Father giving consent, and now we see Adam giving covenant. We know later there's a consummation. My only argument for the entire conversation has been that all these things must happen in a particular order for a covenant, a holy covenant, to be constructed.
All right, Emunah, she's back. Emunah, you're back. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry about that. The phone dropped, but definitely, I'm seeing some comments as well on my side to whether or not the topic of today, 2016, is being addressed from Brother Anwar. Is that topic? Are you able to relate it to give us an answer today? If a man, I'm gonna give you a scenario. If a man goes to a Knesset, or some may call it a camp or wherever, and he goes in there, he's sitting down, and you know, he sees this woman, and he may, you know, he likes her, and she doesn't see her husband around. Is it marriage? If he now begins going over and reading Torah with her, and, you know, sweeten up, and next thing you know, he lays with her, are they married?
All right. Now, I'm going to say this, right? And this is what I teach. To me now, it's more about the new generation coming in, the younger men that are not dealing with that. When I came up in camps, a lot of us turned into whoremongers, okay? You meet these women that had kids, that been with varieties of different men, and you get with her and you talking about that's your wife. According to the scripture, that's a lie. That's not your wife, okay? We were whoremongers. There's a difference. Okay, a fornicator. That's what a fornicator is. But what I'm saying is we have to correct all that, okay? We made a lot of mistakes with that because we're in captivity. That's all I'm saying. What is the right way? What is the right way? That's why you have all these problems. Men are getting with women that been with other men, and And it's a very spiritual thing when you deal with women, okay? When you dealing with her in the intercourse part and you and her spirit get intertwined, that's why the Most High had a decree. That's why the adultery was so, like, you got killed for that, because you're not just disturbing the physical aspect, you're disturbing the spiritual aspect of the marriage as well. You're offsetting a lot of things. That's why you got killed for that. So what I'm saying is this. We made mistakes. The earth went into darkness. When do we set the tone to start rebuilding back in that righteousness and stop making these mistakes while you have all these breakups? I made the mistakes. We all make these mistakes. We were taught and raised under our enemies. But when is the day coming that we have to start correcting this stuff? And I just say we need to start teaching the children the right way like it was in ancient times. That's all I'm saying.
I just want to say one more thing, and then Brother Sai, you can go, because the person asked the question again. So for clarity, for those who may have missed it, the answer to that question is no, they're not married, correct?
No, that's a lie.
Okay, so
that's
for those who just we're having this conversation, does laying with the woman make her your wife? And it sounds like, as we're having this conversation, more is coming out. So Brother Sal, the mic is yours.
All right, let me let Mayanah chime in real quick, and I got some more callers standing by. Remember, if you're listening on social media, if you're listening on Blog Talk, the number is 646-716-7320. Let your voice be heard. All that I ask is when you call in, there's no foul language. Keep it clean, keep it professional. We have some people listening with their children and some with the elderly. So when you call in, keep it clean. Again, the number is 646-716-7320. I see a few people on the switchboard. We're going to get to you guys. Want to hear from you. Mayanah, go ahead.
I would love to hear from the audience. Please let them in.
All right, so let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to 443-939. You're live in the air.
Hey, what's up, everybody on the panel? This is Jeff calling out of Maryland. I like the topic tonight, man. It's real good. I'm glad to see that Ahwar just admitted the point that you're finally on the same page as the ladies, because the ladies have been killing it with scripture up until this point, that sex is not what constitutes a marriage. It's all about that promise. And it's shown straight throughout the scriptures from the beginning to the end, like she said. Like Rahab was a harlot, and she wasn't spoiled or any of that when she came into that union. When you go to, I don't have my Bible with me, but when you go in the New Testament, and I think it was like Luke chapter 2, I think, from 1 to 6, to let you know that Mary was a spouse to Joseph before they came together. So it's finally good to hear that you're on point now, because realistically, like they're saying, I think now you can get somewhere, because realistically, these things are going on, and people do think that just because we have sex, we married now, and the scriptures diametrically oppose that. But so I just want to say, glad to see that you're finally on point, because I think edification will start from now. Good job, ladies. Good job, everybody on the panel, and I'm going to keep listening.
Hey, can I respond to that right quick, Sal?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to tell you why I say that, right? This is Matthew's 9th chapter. Let's see what the Savior said. It says, let's start at the first verse. It says, I'm going to start at what it says. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished the sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coast of Judea beyond Jordan. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. And then it says, the Pharisee also came unto him, tempting him, saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for ever cause? Right? And he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning, he went right back to the beginning, right? Made them male and female. He went back to Genesis to answer the question. Then it says, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Then it says, wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath put together, let no man put asunder. Then it says, then said unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement? And they went into the law of Moses, right? And to put her away. Look what he said. He said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts. Remember what happened during the time of Moses. We were brought out of Egypt. We were under the authority of the Egyptians, and we learned their ways. We went away from our customs. So when we were brought back in the wilderness, we were restructured and being taught all over what was from the beginning. Then it says, he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it was not so. So what I'm saying to bring this out is that when you go sleep with a woman that's not a virgin, you commit adultery. Now I'm going to read. It says, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife. A lot of these women break up with men over arguments, and next you know, another man in 2 weeks is having sex with him, talking about that's your wife? No. The Messiah brought it back. That he said, huh?
Now, go ahead. I see the brother want to chime in, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to finish right quick. It says, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, right, except it be for fornication, lest that woman sleep with another man, and shall marry another. You take another woman, committeth adultery. So now he's bringing that structure from the beginning. That's why I emphasize about the virgin part, which make her your wife. So now he's bringing that back. You can't sleep with a woman that didn't had a man. He's bringing that structure back. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So that proved that sex is very important in marriage. That's marriage. But go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, you back on the air.
Hello?
Good. You on the air.
Hey, all that Ahwar just read, I think it shows that the Lord was dealing with reality too. That's what the women are asking, because he said that he let Moses give them a bill of divorcement. But from the beginning, it was not so. So with that happening shows that reality also was getting dealt with, because really this stuff was happening. It going back to the way it used to be, all of us want that, and we could feel that on the panel today. What we want to teach our children is what's right from the beginning, but everything that you just read, I think, shows that the Most High was dealing with reality too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, let's let the ladies chime in. Let's go to Mayanah. Anything you want to address? Anything you want to say? Go ahead.
Wait, I'm actually thrilled beyond words that that brother did that, because it was something that I was going to have to point out, and I'm really happy that it came from the brother instead, because historically it seems that the men respond better to other men. What the brother is reminding you is that when the first century Messiah is speaking, he plainly states that this law was allowed because of the hardening of men's hearts. That it is a consequence. Of course it wasn't what the Most High intended from the beginning. The Most High never intended for you to harden your hearts against his daughters. So it's not an argument. I mean, it's not the matter of whether or not it was the original intent is not at issue. Of course it was the original intent that the sons and daughters of the Most High would end or separate their unions. But because of the fact that there are consequences to hardening your heart, because there were things that occurred within the union, that this was allowed. And to call it the law of Moses, as if Moses walked around making up his own laws, that didn't happen. Everything that all of our Torah laws are the laws of the Most High. And Moses does all of those by permission. And the Most High permitted those. Those are his laws. And that was his provision, because it was a hardening of the heart. When you read in Malachi, he says that I have bear witness between you and the wife of your youth, whom you have dealt treacherously with. The word treacherous means you have been unfaithful. You have betrayed her. There's the idea that things that I have never intended are happening. The Most High knew that. The Messiah is reiterating what the Most High has already lamented. What I have never intended for my sons and daughters, you are doing anyway. It's a problem for me. And so the writ of divorce was given because of that. It is a consequence. It is not the intent, but it is a consequence of things that are going wrong. And I'm happy that the brother saw that. I'm very happy that the brother brought that out. Prayerfully, the men will respond to the voice of that brother, if not mine.
Emunah Israel, you want to say anything? I actually have some comments I want to put out there that's being made right now, but go ahead, Emunah. Go ahead.
Now get to the comments, brother. Get to the comments. Now you can go to the comments.
All right, let's go to the comments. And by the way, I forgot to say earlier, the chat room is officially open. If you want to gain access to the chat room, all you got to do is go to the website, www.blogtalkradio.com/debate talk for you. Click on the show, the Relationship Challenge Volume 1, and when you scroll down at the bottom, you're going to see like a little box there where you can interact with me or the people that's inside the chat room. I have a comment by Davar Emil Oz. What's going on? And welcome to the show. Appreciate you. He say a wedding is merely a public announcement of sex, and sex bonds to people. Disregarding that bond is fornication. So what do you say to that?
I'm sorry. Can you bring back that question? No, that statement.
Oh, it says a wedding is merely a public announcement of sex, and sex bonds to two people. And then it says, hold on, let me scroll back up. Let me read that one more time and scroll back up. It says, a wedding is merely a public announcement of sex, and sex bonds two people. Disregarding that bond is fornication. What do you say to that, Emunah? Do you agree with that? You disagree?
I like to listen when we use words that either aggrandize or diminish. And what I heard there is a word merely as it relates to a wedding. This is, for me, like I spoke about the slave appropriation of our understanding, the people who have been so disconnected from our culture, we would never utter those words about what a wedding is or what a wedding is not. Because it is, like Mayanah said earlier in the conversation, is that when you're actually marrying, it's a group. It's the families coming together. To not have that opportunity for them to enjoy themselves in this joyous occasion is equivalent to robbery. This is why oftentimes when we see people eloping off, it's like you robbed your family of the opportunity to celebrate in this occasion. There is death, there is birth, and there is marriage. And when we look at, even in the case of Rebecca and Isaac, they said, yo, let us stay with us for 10 days. He was like, no, don't delay me, let me go on my way. What you thought they wanted to do? You understand what I'm saying? And if you read the Apocrypha and you go over to the Apocrypha in the book of Tobit, in the Apocrypha, you see that they celebrated for 14 days, if I'm not mistaken. This was a high celebratory time. And so I say that to say, because we, again, are coming from the slave model where you really didn't, you just was in the back, you jumped the broom, you my wife, you my Isha, bam, it's done. We lost that. And so it's understandable, but I don't agree with it when it comes to that. Like the brother is saying and the sister is saying, going forward, we should reevaluate the way we're looking at these things. A lot of things that we're misappropriating as European, in fact, they are not. You understand what I'm saying? They're not European. If Abraham could have a ceremony, a party basically for the weaning of Yitzchak, you think that it is not a celebratory time where you're going to bust out the yayin and have a feast to say that your son is getting married? So I say to that it's based on where we are, but as we reassess what is ours and what is not, we have to rethink, because it's also, we see also in the Song of Solomon, it speaks about bridegroom and bride. It's a time of anticipation. It's a time of joy. It's a time of suspense. It's a time that someone will remember. That's not European. That is not European. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Can I come in there? Let me come in that right quick, right? Like you said, was absolutely correct. And they had, when you go into Tobit, they had the marriage chamber where, like, if they had an spouse marriage or betrothed, where it was promised, and then they did the physical aspect in the marriage chamber. Now, like I said, when you go back to Deuteronomy 22, verse 13, if they brought that cloth out, okay, and that man came with the accusation, but no blood, well, not brought the cloth. They had to put that cloth in the marriage chamber. Now, later on the line, when he dealt with her and found out that woman was a virgin, off with her head. All that marriage and the family bringing together is dead. She's going to die for that. That's how serious the virgin part was. You can't leave that out. Okay, even though you have all the beautiful, even though you have all the beautiful ceremony in the family, if that woman was a virgin and was lying to her father when he presented her to that man, off with her head. I'm just always saying that. Well, go ahead.
So let me come in on that, because I'm glad that he stuck with the book of Tobit. We find this in the book of Tobit, Sarah is the woman in question. She had been given in marriage 7 times. And what happens is the father says, okay, listen, mind you, there's an angel who is representing Tobit's family, who's part of this negotiation with Mahbub, the Sarah's father. They had this, again, consent. And then he summons his wife and said, listen, bring pen and paper. We're going to write a covenant. So a covenant is in place here again. And then, yes, this is marriage chamber. Now, before they go to the marriage chamber, the father discloses to Toby. He says, you know what? Before I let you sign this, before we go into this covenant, I got to tell you the truth. I've given her marriage 7 times already. Disclosure. So Topper knew what he was going into when he went into that marriage chamber. There's no discussion about sheets or nothing else. None of that is going down. But again, there is that celebration that is mentioned in Tobit. Another example of it's interesting. Let me finish. The conversation of wedding ceremony. There is it's mentioned in Tobit, like the sister said before, it's mentioned, or at least it's alluded to with Abraham and Isaac. We find also with Jacob. Remember when Jacob, right before he breaks up to Leah, there's a huge party. So we see that the celebration is happening even in this case too. Also, when Samson goes to marry this woman from this other nation, he has a whole conversation with his family saying, listen, I want to have a celebration according to our customs. So the wedding that is being discussed is not really the consent or the covenant stage, it's the celebration stage. Samson says, let's do after our custom. This is our custom. It's what we do. We see it in Tobit. It's what we do. We see it with Jacob. It's what we do. And like Oomana said, it's because it's an announcement to everyone that this has happened. What is the case with a lot of these other unions where sex is all that's happening? A lot of these women are hidden women. There's no one around to confirm this shit. No one understands. There's no celebration. These women are in little pockets having this in our little world, in our little living room. We're married, but no one else knows that about. I'm not married. As far as the family is concerned, they don't know me as your wife. Nobody knows me as your wife. I can't go to a hospital. I can't go to your job. Nobody. I'm this hidden woman. That was never the case. Our celebrations serve the function of making a public declaration that these two people have joined these two families, and everybody knows. And I think that's an important thing that is being underemphasized, the importance of being understood by the community as a married couple. And that's not happening. So this idea of, this is pagan, to have something acknowledged that you can do in this way. That's not true. Like I'm saying, that is not correct. It's not Western-minded. It is not pagan-minded. It is very much a part of our custom. It's very much a part of our culture and essential to cementing these covenants.
Yep. Yeah, let me let Award jump in, and I have some more callers standing by. Plus, we got more comments in the chat room. Award, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the sister a question right quick. So, your daughter, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate, as they say. Your daughter come up to you and say, "Hey, Mom, you and your husband, whatever. Mom, I'm getting married. Okay, how would you, what would you expect her to say to you as far as the protocol she took or have taken to become married? What would you ask her? What you need to hear for her to get your blessings?"
My daughter has been betrothed since she was 3 months old. You want to use my daughter as an example?
Oh, really?
I took her husband. She was 3 months old. You want to use me as an example?
Yeah, go ahead. You go.
Yeah, her husband is older. And with that change,
I got you. Okay,
her
that's
husband
good.
was in the next 3 months.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need to get everybody else thinking like that.
And can I say on that topic, as you said, I think you actually spoke to it earlier, that as we're going forward, prayerfully, if you have born and raised a child in this way, they will not just pop up to you and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I'm getting married," because they would have already understood. They would have already been taught, teach the child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart. It's not something where it is that they're going to be watching some craziness on TV and think that's how it goes. They already understand from they're a child, hey, this is how it goes. Your mother and your father have to know this family, because we don't understand. This is what happens on the back end of all of this fake marriage business going on. You know what I mean? The pseudo business is that, oh, I didn't know she was crazy. Oh, I didn't know he had bipolar. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, you didn't take the time. You didn't take the time to dig off and find out what was going on with Aunt Sally. Oh, you don't know about Uncle Henry, because you didn't take the time to go into the family to understand that if you're going to have seed by this child, but they have the sickle cell trait, or that they have this madness, now all of a sudden, Most High, why is this happening? Because you didn't use Hakma. There was no wisdom in it. And you thought that you was do the behind the temple was going to be all good. So the point of the matter is that there's a practical reason. And we see other cultures who have not lost their natural-born mind understand this very, very well. You cannot show up talking about, because you're going to have to be associated with these people in the street, regardless. And here's another thing. People talk about, oh, they don't do law. It doesn't matter. Genetics is genetics. Biology is biology. So whether or not they do law or not, if he has a history of deadbeat dadism, he might have a stroke or some epigenetic issues wherein which you might see it. The same thing with her. And so if you never take the time to go to the parents' house to see really how nasty they probably are or not, and now all of a sudden this is a big contention in your house because she's nasty, but you didn't know she came from a nasty household. So you didn't do your research. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question. So what phases, how would you set your phases on those questions that you would teach your daughter, or the way you see it? Like, what come first? The virginity come first, or what you said come first? How would you line your phases of marriage up as far as what you're looking for your daughter or yourself to marry into? How would you set up your phases? Like, what would be your first phase, marriage or virginity? Then the next, you know what I'm saying?
The first phase, for me, when you have sons and daughters, because for some reason the onus seems to be a lot on the woman. You know what I'm saying? It's jacked up. It's your fault. The nation ain't right. It's your fault. The children keepers is all stretched out. It's your fault. You know, everything is her fault. And the reality is that the onus needs to be on both parties, because it takes two to create. You understand what I'm saying? And so before you can talk about all of what we're talking about, the child has to be, you have to instill trust in the Creator. They have to see you in working order within your household to understand how to first be a person. You understand? Of how to relate to one another. This is why when you see Abraham is sending his servant, he prays. Like, Most High, send me the right one, that she going to be X, Y, and Z. And he names it out. At first, the father isn't like, yo, you got to be a virgin. That's the father's job and the mother's job in the household to protect her. But they had to make sure that she was worthy in character. And so when we teach our children about character and teach them the value, and don't necessarily, and like in my household, I don't shy away from having a conversation. When you grow up, you're going to get married, and you're going to get married, and you're going to be a good mother, or you're going to be a good father. This is a conversation from they're young that you need to be having with them. Not all of a sudden, you're old and gray, now it's time for you to get married. This is something incrementally that it has to be child appropriate. Like, you don't want to scare the child at 5, like, you know what I'm saying? So we have to use wisdom where it is that we're going to use child appropriate conversation, and as they grow older, you implement different other things, and you teach them how to be a support. And you do that by not only just drilling it into them, but actually showing them what it looks like. So that's what I would use wisdom with these young children and let them know this is what you need to do, but I have to equip you. A lot of times we were not equipped to be parents. You understand what I'm saying? We were not even fully equipped to be adults because of the institutions that we were coming out. So we have to relearn all of these things to be able to give it to the next generation.
All right, I got to jump in real quick. I got to bring some of these callers in. Let's go to 704-900. You're live on the air, 704-900.
Hey, what's happening, Sal? What's going on?
Hey, what's happening, bro?
Hey, this is Yahweh for the War Council.
Hey, what's happening, man? What's going on?
Doing all right. Hey, I'd just like to ask a question to the panel that you have up there. So we understand that in history, to have a celebration amongst yourselves as a family was really more so the declaration to society to let them know, the public know, that you are responsible for the family that you're raising and for the children that will come from under that umbrella. nowadays when two people get married, they're somewhat making that public declaration by having what's called a marriage certificate. And in that marriage certificate, it's basically public record to let everybody know that you have taken that declaration to society, that you're responsible for your family and what comes up under that umbrella. Since we have such a system in place, would you think it's still necessary to have family celebration for that reason?
Who wants to take on that question? Who want to be the first one?
I would just say I don't think that the celebration is solely for that reason. I heard her stating that was one of the key reasons, but it's not solely. It's like we underestimate the bond or the joy that comes by seeing and actualizing and experiencing a celebratory moment. And it's not a crime. It's not something wrong to say, listen, I raised my son all the way up until this point, and praise be to the Most High, I get to drink a glass of yayin and watch him get married. It's just what it is. It's something for to enjoy the fruits of their labor, the parents and all those, the family, all those who have labored with this fruit of the womb to see them to maturity, for not only just for the community, but also for the parents. This is something normal. You know what I mean? Like I said, Abraham was so overjoyed by weaning, that was something normal. But again, we are so removed from normalization that it's not only just, and there are other ways of which you can declare your union outside of a marriage, quote-unquote, certificate. But all of the steps, as she's stating, all have to still be in place for when we're talking about coming back into alignment with universal divine law. You understand? So that everybody will be covered and the children are not left out there, the woman is not left out there. This is why we have laws to remember the widow, the fatherless, the orphan. Why? Because their protection is gone and now the community becomes that protection. So to answer your question, no, it's more than just for that reason, and there's nothing wrong with celebrating the fruits of your labor and all your work over the years.
Okay, very good. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Ahwar, you want to chime in? Go Ahwar.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I agree 100% what she said. There was a lot of things that was to be celebrated in marriage. I mean, to find a perfect woman, that you really love, that y'all are bonded physically and in spirit. And that's a great thing to celebrate. And like she said, it wasn't always about the paperwork. It was really, these customs of this world is totally adverse to our customs. Don't even make a comparison. Okay? But that's all I wanted to say.
Mayanah?
No, I agree. I think the panel covered it.
All right,
I would like to address what we were talking about before. Unless there's another caller, of course I would defer to your caller, but if not, I'd like to address what we were talking about a moment ago.
No, you do that. I don't see anybody else pressing number one at this time. I see some comments being made in the chat room, though, and I want to, address them to you guys for soon. But once again, we have some more time on the air, people. You can call in. If I ever hold your peace, you know that number, 646-716-7320. Simply press number one, and we'll add you in the conversation. If you're already listening on the phone, all you got to do is press number one, and we'll add you in the conversation. I'm going to take a few more questions and comments, and then after that, we can pretty much wrap it up. Another classic show. By the way, people, we're going to have part 2 of the Relationship Challenge, Volume 2, coming up March 7th. That's going to be, we're going to try to make it like every Monday. I decided to take care of something for the following Monday, but we're going to come back on the air with the Relationship Challenge, Volume 2. That's going to be March 7th. And let me see what the topic will be on the March 7th. It's going to be, should women teach, preach, or even speak according to the scriptures? Yeah, that's going to be the next, edition right there, So make sure you keep it locked on Debate Talk. You're going to have a war back on the panel, and, of course, we're going to probably add some more people on the panel as well. So make sure you keep it locked on Debate Talk Radio. But, go ahead, Mayanah, anything you want to say? Anything you want to address?
Well, we were talking before about the second generation, my children, the mother's children, and prayerfully, our brother's children now or in the future. With my question, with my daughter, I said that I arranged her marriage when she was 3 months old. That's true. So there was a consent between families, and there's a covenant agreement right now between the parents. But what I wanted to break from that first, just to kind of talk about, Emunah mentioned how we raise our daughters, and the fact that a lot of the time the onus is on these daughters. And the fact, and we hear the brother placing due and appropriate emphasis on the virginity of our daughters. This is a very important factor in many areas in preserving the culture. But in addition, these women are not becoming defiled on their own. Emunah and I have male children in our homes, in our household, her sons and my nephews, and these boys are being taught not to be whoremongers, not to be the type of men that will defile women. You have women who we talk about, these women have had all of these men. These men are taking these women. And as we're raising our sons to respect the dignity and the integrity and the boundaries of our daughters, then this is another way that we can prevent the issue of whether or not our daughters in the future have been defiled and come upon this issue of virginity or non-virginity. If we impress upon our sons the importance of not enticing them, not defiling them, not allowing their urges to overwhelm them, but to be masters of their own flesh, for them to from a very young age understand the value of being a leader, of being a protector. My nephews are several years younger than my daughter, and still you cannot. They're very protective of her. Don't come near. That's my sister. Don't. And they're not her brother, but don't touch her. Who's looking at you? Why is she talking to you? One day, my daughter, like I said, she's 18 now, and obviously she's gone through school. She's gone through high school. She's in college now, and in high school, for example, some little boy decided to show interest in her. My daughter has a lot of my personality, so she's a little sarcastic. And she said, sure, talk to my mom. Consent. Talk to my mom. So he gets on the phone with me, and I tell him, sure, you want to date my daughter? I need 200 foreskin. He's like, okay, your mom is crazy. And that was that. Because my daughter is very unapologetically Israelite in her life. So everyone who comes into contact with her has certain expectations of her. So when she says, yeah, go ahead, talk to my mom, the conversation is, sure, you can have my daughter. I need 200 foreskins because we're Israelites, and that's what we do. And so this idea of how do we protect our future, we like the brother has been saying correctly and rightfully so, is that we go back to how those things are put in place so that we can protect our children. And those are the things that we did to protect our children. You have to prove your worthiness. We say what we have to say as adults, but before we worry about how we are going to protect our children, we have to concern ourselves with what are we showing our children? What are they going to emulate? Can we first can I say that, whatever mistakes my parents, my father may have made, he didn't make that with my mother. Whatever mistakes my mother made, she didn't make that. This time she got it right. This time he got it right. So now I know what it looks like to be right. We have to show them what it looks like. So we have to stop. We have to immediately disengage from this dialogue that encourages sex without a covenant, without order, without consent. Because if you're going to continue to tell these children, listen, all you have to do is have sex to get married, they're not going to come to us. Why would they? Because they can have sex without us. Dogs have sex. Rats have sex. This is not a complicated process. But having to come and bring that person in front of me, that's the process. Getting that covenant down, that's the process. That's going to protect you. If she knows that for a guy to get to her, they have to go through me, that's a problem. That's going to slow down a whole lot of hearts. Whole bunch of people lose their erection on sight trying to come to my daughter. This is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. I actually have a question in the chat room. It says, show us an example of marriage without sex. Show us an example of marriage without sex. Let's go to Mayanah. I guess you were talking to Mayanah. You want to show an example? Okay.
I have a tendency to not answer questions that I've never said. Like, I never said there was a marriage that didn't have sex. I said sex is stage 3. I didn't say that sex got thrown out the window. I said sex is not how you begin anything. Sex is the third thing. It's the third step. But first you go to the family. They understand that sex is a privilege of marriage. Sex is with the privilege of a married couple. Once you have gone through all the appropriate steps, get it on like jackrabbits. I support you. But before that, what you have done is you have defiled that woman. You have not married her. You have not protected her. You have not created a covenant with her. You have defiled her. That's why it says in our text that if a man entices a woman who is not betrothed, he surely endows her to be his wife. He now, after having done something out of order, must return to the order and do it right. If you start at step 3, you're not supposed to be at step 3. You need to go back to step 1. Don't crash store. Don't collect $200. Go straight. You have to go back. You have to go back to the beginning. You must do things in decency and in order.
All right, let's go to Ahwar real quick. Ahwar, you want to make any answer that one? Show us an example of marriage without sex. Mm-hmm.
Right. That's a great question to prove how that's an important narrative that sex is what consummates the marriage. Because how can you be with a woman and never have sex with her? That's not your wife. That's what makes that woman above all women on the planet, is that you had intercourse with her. That's what makes her yours. That's the bond right there, is the intercourse part. If you don't have sexual intercourse with a woman, you can't say that's your wife. You cannot say it. Okay, now they had the spouse where you still, eventually you would have sex, or the betrothed, where you were promised to a man and eventually he's going to have sex with you. Okay, but if you never, like that was a good question that brother asked, that showed that sex is a mandatory, being a virgin is a mandatory situation. Sex is very important in a marriage. It's the most important part of the marriage. Because you can't say that's your wife if you ain't had sex with her.
You got Emunah. I'm sorry. You got Emunah.
Oh, boy.
Got you that one.
So you want to know why? Like I said, and maybe I have a bit of tunnel vision, but if we don't recognize...
Forward with that.
If you forward it in it, if we don't recognize the damage and where we are damaged, we will keep coming back to this conversation. Nowhere in this last, 2 hours and 20 minutes, has anyone said that. That's not the question on the table. And it has been clearly stated by everyone, and even the caller in, that these are steps. In the same way that someone cannot be your wife if you don't lay with them, if you reverse that conversation, just because you lay with the person doesn't make her your wife. So it's a moot point, because that shows that the act in itself is not the constituting factor for whether or not she's your wife, because you can lay with someone who ain't your wife. You get it? Yeah. So my point is that the damage that has been done is on many levels as it relates to the Most High said this mark is going to be on you for a sign. One damage is that in the very root of our being, we are displaced. We don't have a place where we call home. So we're always in a state of panic. The next one that is damaged is our procreative faculty. And once we're damaged in that way emotionally, we cannot reason. This stuff that we're talking about, other people will look at us like we say, oh, no matter. Like, who don't know that? You understand what I'm saying? And I understand it, but for us to step back from it to just at least admit, you know what, our foreparents was hit in this area. And so the confusion that we're having, as I keep saying, in 2016 and beyond, is that we cannot get clarity that these steps need to be in place, not only as a precautionary measure, but to make things universally in decency and in order. And I'll give you a thing, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, people keep saying you lay with the person, that make her your wife. If someone goes in a field and plant a seed, does it make it his field? I might feel this because me put my corn seed. It's not your field. You didn't acquire it in the proper way. You can't go into a parking lot and say, this is my car, and jump in the joint. It's called carjacking. So how is it that we think that you can roll up on a shorty at the corner store, slap some fringes on her, and call her your Isha? It's ridiculous.
Wow. Can I come in on that?
You know what I'm saying? And that's the point of the conversation, the ridiculousness. But again, like I'm saying, it is rooted in what we have been taught for over 400 years in this dispensation, is that that's all you needed. And until we come to terms with that, to realize that if we want to talk about Western, if we want to talk about pagan, how about we start talking about that's pagan, that's Western, that's Babylonian. We like burning a fire upon everything else. Well, burn a fire upon, take up people, girl picnic, and don't go about it in the right way. Burn a fire upon not taking care of your children. Burn a fire upon that. I'm sorry.
Can I come in on
that? Let's respond.
Can I come in? Okay. All right, what we can do, marriage between man and woman is replicated from the Most High's marriage with Israel. And when the Most High talked about whoredoms, when Israel committed whoredoms, the whoredom was to take a rock or idol and say that's your God. And he called that adultery, he called that fornication spiritually, and he called it whoredom. So what we need to do, if we did, like if Israel did that, we can't say, well, I just dealt with one idol. No matter if it's one idol or a million idols, it's whoredom. So what I'm saying is, what we call marriage, if you have a woman that dealt with other men, and you can't call that marriage. That's all I'm saying. You need to call that something else, because that's not marriage according to what it was in the beginning. Okay, if that was not a virgin, that's not marriage, and we need to call a spade a spade. That's what we need to start to deal with truth. It's about truth to me.
Wait, hold on, brother. I'm sorry, because we might have to make that another topic, because then that brings into question, based on what you're saying, because I like to hear stories and then principles, right? So based on what you're saying, right, Ruth was not married to Boaz.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And based on what you just said, Bathsheba, after Uriah died in battle, and David took her, she wasn't married to David either. I just want clarification for what you're saying. These individuals were not married because at the time of which the consummation, they were not virgins.
Right. No, not only that, because let me say this, right? Because once a woman dies, once a woman dies, then she's like free again. They tell you that in the law. That's the only way you could take another woman. The husband had to die. Now, the case with David, let me make this point. The case with David, the reason why David was punished for that, because he had an evil, premeditated intent, to take that woman when the man was alive. He planted the seed of adultery in his head when the man was alive. That's why the Most High punished him and killed his firstborn. He had the evil thought before the man died. That's why he put the man in front of the battle. So he really technically committed adultery, because what the Savior said. He said if a man lusts upon a woman, he committed adultery with her. So he committed the act of adultery. It's just that he did it in his mind first, which is the beginning stage of adultery. That's another stage of adultery. But he did the act later on when the man died, and he thought he was good. No. The Most High knows your heart. He premeditated the evil and the adultery in his head before he did what he did to that guy. But go ahead.
That's interesting. We might have to touch that next time, Brother Sal. You want to get the comments in the chat room. Thank you for that.
So, brother, you disagree with Torah when Torah says that if a man gives a woman a writ of divorcement, she is free to marry another. Okay. So you are going to call Torah wrong, correct?
What do you mean?
Well, when Torah says that if a man gives a woman a writ of divorcement and puts her out of and sends her out of his home, she is free to marry another. That husband doesn't have to drop dead. He just has to give her a writ of divorcement and send her out of her house. And according to Torah, she is free to, the word is marry. So are we to agree with you, or should we read Torah?
No, wait. That's why I came back and went to Matthew 19 and reiterated what the Savior said. Okay? He came back and said it was like that, but it's not so. He said if a man take a woman that's married, he said you commit adultery with her. A woman that's put away, like if I have a woman, I said, look, I'm not dealing with her no more, and another man go and sleep with her, I committed adultery. Okay? She committed adultery.
Okay, let's be clear. What that scripture says is that if you take a woman, if a man takes a woman and he's only put away his wife, then he has committed adultery against his wife, and any man who takes that woman has committed adultery. Again, that is because in Torah it tells you it is a two-step process. You cannot separate from a woman and not give her a writ of divorce. You can't say, I'm not going to deal with her anymore and then get you a brand new shiny stuff, but not free the first woman. You can't decide not to do your responsibility. Let me finish, please. You can't decide to not do your responsibility to one woman and get another. So the idea. The reason why that woman would commit adultery and that man who's with her commits adultery is because she's not a free woman. He didn't divorce her. Right. He just separated from her. You can't do that. According to Torah, and let's be clear, the first century Messiah makes it very clear that he's not destroying or doing away with anything. He's going to confirm Torah. He can't destroy laws. He's not going to he's not getting rid of laws. He's going to confirm and be consistent with Torah. There's nothing that ever says that he came to destroy any law. So Torah is the law, and Torah says that.
So you say divorce is still in effect? That's what you say.
Are you saying the laws are not in effect?
No. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm asking you a question. You're saying that divorce is still in effect.
Everything. But for me, that changes everything. If you have decided that the laws don't mean anything to you, this is not a conversation that you and I can have, because I'm going to deal with the law. And you have decided that the laws are not in effect. So for you, absolutely, you can hump somebody into whatever you want it to be, because the laws don't mean anything to you. But it's curious to me that you want to go back to all of these spaces where the law resides. These ideas of these things. These are all laws.
I'm asking you a question. Is divorce done away with or not?
I already told you, no, the laws are not done away with.
So you can divorce right now, according to what the Savior said. That's what you're saying.
According to Torah, divorce is a law.
All right. Well, you don't believe in the New Testament.
Why don't I believe in the New Testament? I just quoted the New
Testament.
Testament.
Because you disagree with what the Savior said. The Savior directly told you that...
No, I'm agreeing with what the New Testament Messiah has said. He said, I'm not doing away with the law or the prophets. I agree with that.
Listen, hold on. Let me talk. Hold on.
All right, order in the court. Order in the court. All right, get a war. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that's why I read that in Matthew, the 19th chapter. And what did the Savior do? The first thing he referred to, what was the plan in the beginning? Okay? There's no only thing supposed to separate you and your wife is death. He went right back to what was in planning in the beginning. He told you for the hardness of your heart, Moses gave a bill of divorcement. You look at the structure back then, we were coming out of the Egyptian rulership. We was under their authority, doing all kind of abominations, and we wasn't getting along with our wives, and we were disturbing things. So divorce was a temporary situation. But when this Messiah came back on the scene, he tell you in Timothy that he came to bring understanding on all things. He went back, and the Moses gave him the order to restructure and reiterate no more divorce. So if you get with a wife, you stay with a wife till one die. And if she commit adultery,
that's a whole. That's a whole other show, man. We gotta get that popping too, and that's a whole other show.
All right,
we're gonna put that a part of the relationship challenge, segments. But somebody press number 1. Again, we're in the final moments of Debate Talk Free Radio. So if you guys want to chime in, all you got to do is press number 1 if you already called in via phone or via Skype. Or if you're on social media or you're on Blog Talk, the number is 646-716-7320. Again, when you call in, please keep it clean, keep it professional. And after we get some comments from the people or questions from the people, we're going to pretty much get some final words from the special guests. Let's go to 314-728. You're live on the air.
Shalom.
Hey, shalom.
I just had a question for both of you guys. So I know that the women are saying in order to be married that you have to do it in order, and it has to be a diary and going to the father and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if I missed this. I hope, I'm not bringing anything back. But in my situation, are you saying that I'm not allowed to get married because I don't have anybody to go to for the man to go to, or a father figure or something like that to say, hey, yeah, you can take my daughter? So I'm not allowed to get married?
No. No, that's not the case. There's some cases where your parents could be deceased. That don't mean you can't be married. You just got to make the proper judgment on your own. Make sure you choose the right guy.
Sis, if I can add to that, actually, Scripture provides for that. without having to do any guesswork. You have the example of Hadassah. Hadassah is understood as Esther. Hadassah's family, she has no father, she has no mother. Her cousin steps in, and it's her cousin that arranges for her to get put in that. So it's not if you have no access to your father, if you have no access to a parent, then your male kin, your male relation, if you have a cousin, uncle, or brother, in some cases we have spiritual elders. There are cases where spiritual male elders have acted as covering on behalf. So you don't really have to feel like if you don't have access to your father for whatever reason, because a lot of sisters don't. You know, I was privileged to be raised by my father all my life, but a lot of sisters don't have that experience. If you have an uncle, or like in the case of Hadassah, her cousin does it. So you don't have to feel like you're out of the eligibility pool for marriage simply because you don't have access to your father.
But if you don't have anybody.
Oh, okay, got it. So you don't have anybody? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Emunah, you want to answer that?
Like,
Yeah,
so there's no male covering that you have. Like, for instance, I just came into knowing that we are a nation, so I don't have an elder to speak to. My family only had one male cousin, and he died. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't have those necessities. So you saying I have to wait until I get a covering before getting married?
Sister, you know what? If you have just gotten into the truth, you are not prepared to be married anyway, because you don't go. This has to do with order. When you think about the stages of growth, there are orders to that. You first have to go through stages: daughter, sister, woman, mother, and then wife. You have to get your daughter stage down. You are responsible. Let's go back to the beginning. You are responsible to be meat to somebody. How can you? This is not the stage where you are discussing marriage. This is the stage where you're trying to figure out how to be a good daughter to the Most High, how to be a sister to somebody else. You have other things to navigate. During that period of time, there will be elders that you will come into contact with. You have to be good. You can't go into a man's house and have nothing to offer him. You cannot be a meat help to anybody. We have to have levels first. You have to be prepared to. You have to understand who you are. Get your relationship with the Most High first, so that you have that sense of own identity, and you have to be able to say.
Who said that I didn't have that? When I said coming to the truth, I'm talking about as far as a nationality and things like that. That didn't mean I didn't have any understanding of the Most High. I still read the Torah. I still read the Bible. I still had a relationship with him. I'm 35. I saw him bless me. He revealed himself to me. I am a woman who's ready to get married. So I don't know how you got that, because I don't have a covering to get married to say that I'm not ready to. I've been in this walk for 5 years with the Most High. The Ruach led me into the truth just now. That doesn't mean that he gave me all the truth. He milked me. He grew me into this era where he told me that I had a nationality and things like that.
You miss. I can hear where the pushback is coming from. It's not because you're 35. I understand that your physical maturation has come to pass. What I'm saying is that if you have only recently come to a particular understanding that there is wisdom and there is merit in taking the time to nurture that understanding first. And that during that time, while you are taking those steps to prepare and to nurture and to become firmer, I'm not saying that you have no foundation, but to become firmer, you will come into contact. And you should seek elders and have that. You deserve to have a covering first. So if you're saying that right now you don't have a covering instead of first seeking a husband, there's wisdom in first seeking a covering. So that, again, we've been emphasizing order and how things are supposed to happen in a particular sequence. So I don't want you to take from that I'm saying, okay, you're not an adult, or that you don't have physical maturation. What I'm saying is that instead of saying, well, what do I do for a husband? Say, okay, well, we understand that I deserve to have a covering. There's an order to things. There's a consent step that has to be in place. Let me put those things in place so that when I get to my marriage stage, I have all of those things already there. And you're saying that's not there. So I'm asking you to take the time to go and collect those things.
Mona, you want to chime in?
No.
I think, like I said, what the conversation is very interesting. It sounds like it's spinning off into another show topic because definitely, as it relates to having a support system, as we go along, we see how necessary it is. And oftentimes, both men or women preemptively jump into the understanding of who we are, and in that infantile state, like what Sister Mayanah is saying, we make decisions based on information that we don't have full disclosure to. And when we get into the issue, when we get into the problem, because we did not first, seek necessary counsel, or we didn't have all of the things to make the proper decision, then we want to know how to get out of it. And so I do think that there's wisdom, especially because men, and I'm keeping it 100, prey on brand new meat. You know I'm just keeping it real. Fresh fish, you can smell it.
That's true.
I mean, they prey on him like, sis is brand new. Like they just took her out of the spandex, threw on the ZZs. It's a go. She knows nothing. That means I could tell you that, I could tell you whatever I want to tell you, because it's like the first teacher of a child. And when he puts that in the root, it's very hard to get it out. And so for this, and like what Sister Mayanah is saying, and is that we need to get the teaching and understand, because there are a lot of pitfalls. There are a lot of stumbling blocks, and we can avoid these things if we continue to have honest, truthful conversations like this and speak so that others out there won't make the same mistakes. So I definitely agree that if you don't, back to the caller's question, if you don't have a physical covering, spiritually, people, the Most High will, if our heart is pure and clean and we want it, the Most High will lead us to those who we can at least say, man, Zaquin, I got a question. You know what I'm saying? Ima, I have a question, X, Y, and Z, and they could sit back. The elders know. Nah, baby, you don't want him. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, why? And they'll be able to tell you this insightful wisdom that we can't see because we're blinded by our thoughts. And this is also what the masculine represents. He is that shield. He is that filter, because oftentimes when the woman already gets it in her head that, I like him, he could be a low down, no good, and she likes him irregardless, even though he will be detrimental to her. And so this is the filter, this is the protection that when we get back to these things, we can bring back order into the household. So once again, that's my 2 cents. I know it sounds, especially because we're grown, and the phase that Mayanah is talking about was actually supposed to happen when we were children. And because it didn't happen when we were children, we feel like, you dissing me? You understand what I'm saying? But as a child, it's easier to tell you these things than as an adult. But in the same way, spiritually, we are children, and we need to grow up little by little.
Yeah, we have a lot of real talk tonight. The Relationship Challenge Volume 1 is definitely going to be a classic of the archives. As Laying with the Woman Makes Her Your Wife. Very powerful conversation. I think we got another caller. We only have 15 minutes on the air. I'm going to pretty much wrap it up. But we're going to take some more calls. 240-779. You're live on air. 240-779. Can you hear me? Are you there? 240. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Are you there? I guess not. All right, so and actually somebody in the chat room, when you made that comment, when I talk about the brand new you, they said, I'll take her. I'll take her. They'll take you. I hear you, the vibe, man. I got you. I was being fresh in the chat room there. I got you. All right, so we're gonna take some. We're gonna pretty much wrap it up and get some last words from the special guest. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and pressing number 1 and chiming in this conversation. Remember, we're gonna be back with Volume 2, March 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure you tune in. And, of course, I got to thank Emunah Israel for this powerful, topic that she created, this segment that she created for Debate Talk Radio, the Relationship Challenge. Hope you enjoyed. Well, let's get some last words from special guests. Let's go to Ahwar Da Swordsman, some last words.
Yeah, this is a good show, and this is very necessary because there's a lot of hurt sisters out there, a lot of hurt brothers. They're trapped in situations that they don't understand because they don't have the knowledge to see right from wrong. And I've made mistakes due to ignorance of this knowledge. So this is a very necessary platform because I'm not scared to conquer any conversation about stuff because I know our brothers and sisters need it. I need it. We all need it. We got to constantly reiterate this in our minds, okay, because these situations going to come up. But this was a very good conversation, and I hope there'll be more. And that's it. And shalom to you, sisters.
Shalom.
Yeah, we appreciate you. And again, we're going to try to do this every Monday from here on in. We're going to try to make this every Monday. Again, a relationship challenge. Keep it locked. Mayanah Johnson, definitely appreciate you being here. Any last words you want to say to the people?
I just want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to share such an important platform with such informed people. Speaking with the brother and Sister Emunah has been a pleasure. Hearing the concerns and questions from the audience has been amazing. I hope that we were able to provide some insight and some sense of direction. And if there's any questions, then obviously they're invited to take those conversations with me offline. They're welcome to do so.
Do you have an email or something you want to put out there for people to reach out to you? You can do that now if you want to.
My email is actually the common spelling THE.Sopheret, which is spelled SOFERET @gmail.com.
All right, somebody's person number one again. Let's go. I like to talk to the people. Let's see who's here. 240-799. You're back on the air. 240. Can you hear me? I can hear something. 240. 240-799. All right, maybe they're pressing the button by mistake. All right, Emunah, you got the, listen, this is your segment. Any final words? Go ahead.
I want to thank Brother Ahwar Da Swordsman. I want to thank Sister Mayanah. I want to thank all the listeners, everybody who tuned in, everybody who was listening, everybody who shared it. Just to echo the sentiments that came before, it's very important. You might hear these type of conversations get turned up as it is to be expected because, as you said, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of pain. And when you begin to touch on areas that are very personal, we may see these emotions come out, but let us not get discouraged. Let us continue to have these conversations till we can come to some level of understanding among one another and resolve. We're talking about relationships here, and in order to begin to fix our relationships, like I said before, we have to acknowledge that it's broken. And so all praise be to the Most High, the Holy One of creation, the Holy One of Israel, of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I want to thank Brother Sal for opening up his platform and allowing us to go into very, very touchy areas. But prayerfully, it's all for the good. So once again, everybody have a blessed night. Shalom.
All right, people, let's let you guys know we have a show Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday this week on Debate Talk Radio. We have a debate actually set up for this Friday, and we have 2 Bible lessons, I believe, one on tomorrow and another one on Thursday. So make sure you keep it locked on Debate Talk Radio. Spread the word. That Debate Talk for You is on the air at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday. We're going to see you guys tomorrow. See you next time. Take care.